Okay. Good evening. Welcome. It's 7:30 Wednesday. We have a business session time. We'll do the pledge and then go into the meeting. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So, do you have any announcements? Do you have anything? You got it? No? So I'll just mention that, first of all, it's a gorgeous day out there, so I think a lot of people are gonna be walking around right now. Just wanted to let, the public know, in case you haven't seen it, that we had somebody who sat on the town council for about 30 years, which is more than 30 years, a long term, a Northern Wiltshire Jr., who was a resident of our village for many years and was very civically involved in many ways. We are doing an honorary street naming at 2 p.m. on my calendar anyway. And it is on the corner of Brandith and Broadway. It's going to be a really nice celebration because many of Northern's family still lives in Ossining. And many other people have really been looking forward to this day. Our historian did. I feel like I'm going in and out. Jamie, is this working okay?
You sound great, but I did
You're
want to
okay
say that
too?
it's at
Okay, it
noon
must be
on
me moving
Saturday.
around.
It's at
Okay.
noon on Saturday.
Okay, it must just be me moving around too much. So we're very excited. Northern was one of the first people my husband and I met. We moved here over 32 years ago. His wife actually passed away, I think 6 months after he did. Yeah. They were together for many, many, many years. We hope that members of the public come in and join us. It should be a beautiful day and a beautiful ceremony. And I think that's it for announcements. So we're ready to go with the meeting.
Good evening, everyone. We have a long agenda tonight, but an exciting one. Our first agenda item is a proposed development for 34 State Street. So we have with us tonight the gang from Wilder Bolter Partners, as well as Insight Engineering and Architecture, the architects on the project, Ossining Base Group. And with that, I would like to invite the group up for their presentation.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be back in Ossining. We're very excited to be here to talk to you about 34 State Street. Architecture, Michael's going to do a presentation, and Insight is also here to speak a little bit, answer some questions. So I'm going to leave most of this to them, but I wanted to just give you some highlights of what we're here to talk about tonight. So you all know better than I do that this property has been proposed for many things over the years. What we are doing basically is starting over again and ignoring sort of what was approved in the past. We started by sort of looking at what was on the property in terms of the Smith Robinson house and seeing if it was possible to do anything to save the building. So the plan that you're going to see incorporates keeping the original facade of the building. It's structurally in pretty terrible shape. We're not sure if we're going to build an internal structure to save the front facade, or if we're going to take the facade down and build a new structure, put the facade back up. But what you're going to see when we get to that is that we're incorporating the Smith Robinson facade in as a main element of our building. We're proposing a development here that is a combination of affordable home ownership condominiums, 100 of them, and then a building with 50 rental apartments on the western end of the building. The property was formerly
How many did you say?
50 rental apartments.
Okay.
And 100 for sale condominiums.
Right, got it.
At workforce level. And Jim will talk a little bit about the details of that. The property we suspected was a brownfield site because of its former use as a Printex manufacturing site, textile site. We recently, actually literally yesterday, I think, got confirmation from the DEC that the property is eligible to get into the brownfield cleanup program,
Oh,
which
great.
was incredibly important because I don't think development financially would work if we hadn't got for that. So that was very important. We actually applied for that much sooner than we normally would because we were quite sure that there was no project without that. So I'm glad to be here, having heard unofficially from the DEC. So basically, it's a site that you all know well. And again, I started by saying we sort of ignored what was approved before, because what was approved before really sort of covered the site. It had off 100th Street an automated garage that I never really thought was feasible, and it climbed up the hill in that way. So you'll see when you see the site plan that we're going to take you through that we really stayed away from that. So again, you all know who we are, but because this is a public meeting, we sort of wanted to talk a little bit about the company so that the public knows who we are. We're the same people doing 30 State Street, Station Plaza. Sorry.
30 Water. Yeah.
Station Plaza, which is under construction. In the image that's on the screen, it's showing some of our completed developments as well as developments that we have under construction or recently approved. In the top left is Stella 1 and 2. The taller of those two buildings is a 380 unit building that's fully complete. On the right is a 126 unit affordable condo that's under construction. Below that on the left is the Tarrytown YMCA, where we did an adaptive reuse, where we saved the historic YMCA. And in the back of the building, you see solar panels. It's a new 4-story building. That's 109 rental apartments. That's income averaged. On the bottom center, near and dear to all of our hearts, is Station Plaza, which is under construction now. On the bottom right is a project we just got approved in Austin, which is an affordable condo, 100 affordable condos in Croton, right near the train, block from the train. In the middle right is a large market rate rental in Brewster, New York, town of Southeast that we finished about a year ago. And on the top right is 645 Main Street, which is an affordable rental that we completed about 3 years ago. So would you have next slide? Is ever doing that?
JD's got you from above.
You just have to let Jamie know.
Oh, thank you. Okay, so I think, do you want to? Okay, so Mike is gonna take you through the plans, and then Jim's gonna tell you about the AHOP program, because it's something for us, and then the question.
Okay. I also just because it's a public for the public record, because people might look at it months from now, years from now. The presentation is being made to the board, but because it's public, let me just put in context. Bill Balter was talking about how it's like a starting over and all that. Just so we're clear, they're not starting over. This property, I may need to be corrected, more than 15 years for sure, has been bought and sold and bought and sold. There were a lot of aspirational designs. Some got approved, others had a lot of hiccups, investors bought it, all sorts of folks. So they recently came into this. So the redo is not from them. It's just that this property has been back and forth without anything really being done. And I would say 20 years, but I don't want to be wrong about it. But I know it's no less than 15 years. So just wanted to clarify that in case people thought you were redoing this, but actually you're starting with a new concept, which you're presenting tonight.
My name is Michael Bevavino, for
Hello.
anyone that doesn't know me. Hi, Mayor. I am a proud Austining resident. I also have my business named Architecture located here. Just to, if you wouldn't mind pausing on that slide, just to run you through a couple of our projects and sort of my experience. I have a deep passion for sort of working on affordable building projects. I think there's something very rewarding about the idea of providing housing at an affordable level. That project in the top right is one proposed building in Brooklyn with a Visions organization. It'll be 80 affordable units for the blind and visually impaired. The building on the lower right is in Coney Island called 1515 Surf. There's 463 units. I worked on that one with my last practice, but I'm currently involved in assisting with fitting out the retail spaces on the ground floor. The project in the middle, you're all hopefully familiar with. That's the project we've been working with on the Village on Main Street that we'll hopefully be partnering with over the coming months and years with Wilder Balter to develop. Again, that's a mixed income, approximately 110 unit building. The one on the lower left.
I don't think is that mixed?
Mixed
It's
use
market.
and market
use
rate.
and market.
Yeah,
Right,
we have to be very clear about that. That's market rate.
Building in the lower left, that had a 15% affordable unit component, 65 units located in the Upper West Side. Again, it was a mixed use building with retail and community facility. And then the building in the top left is the same one that Bill mentioned that we're working on with them in Croton. That's a 100 unit AHOP building, kind of similar program to what we're gonna present today. If you wouldn't mind moving to the next slide. So this is 34 State Street, as you all know and love. Go to the next slide. This is kind of how it exists in its current condition. All that's pretty much left on the site is the Smith Robinson House, some paving from the old building, and then kind of remnants of the old Printex building that was there. You go to the next slide. This is as recent as 2007, before the building was demolished. You can kind of see where the old textile factory was. Actually, a large portion of what we're proposing for the footprint of these buildings kind of sits in the same location as the Printex wings did. If we go to the next slide. Jim may want to speak about this a little bit later. There's just a copy of the survey. Come back to that. Next slide, please. So this is Smith Robinson House, built in the 1840s out of Sing Sing marble, a limestone. Incredible building. I think it's one of 3 kind of remaining Greek revival structures in Ossining. Something that we definitely wanted to incorporate, embrace, and sort of play off whatever we end up doing with the facade of this building. Unfortunately, the inside is in pretty awful shape. It's kind of demolition by neglect. I had the opportunity to tour it recently and was just surprised how in such a short amount of time what's happened to the inside of that building. I think we hope to incorporate as many of the details, or at least the spirit of what the home was in the redevelopment of this project. But at the moment, there's not a lot on the interior that I think we can save. Next slide. So one of the most fascinating things I've learned over the past couple of months was about Vera Newman. She's a complete badass. I'm not sure to say that in a public forum, but she really was. Just like, and it's just amazing that this woman lived and worked and designed in Ossining and designed on this site. So it was something that my team was like, oh, this is amazing. We need to find a way to kind of pay homage to this woman and her company and this site. And I'll talk a little bit about that as we go on. But I think one of the most amazing things is probably her most famous quote that says, "I don't believe only the wealthy deserve good design." And I think nothing could be more appropriate for an affordable multi-family building. So just worth mentioning. Next slide, please. So the site plan is essentially 2 to 4 buildings.
I'm
depending
sorry,
on-
sir, did your microphone go out? Because I can't,
No, I don't think so.
okay,
Can you lift it up?
That's great.
Yeah, you need to speak
Better?
right in. Yeah.
thank you.
Sure. So the site plan is a number of buildings sort of organized around a center courtyard. And that center courtyard serves a couple of different functions. One, it's sort of a communal amenity space for the residents, kind of shared amongst the buildings. It also provides a place for pickups and drop-offs, and a pool that'll be shared by all of the residents, and also allows for fire truck access. So we've been working closely with Insight to make sure that the fire truck can kind of get in there and turn around. I'm sure we have lots more work to do on that with the fire department and with Insight, but that's the intent. So the 2 buildings on sort of flanking the L shape, on either side of Smith Robinson House are the AHOP buildings that are, as Bill mentioned, 100 units. And then the building to the west, is our 50-unit rental building. I'll go to the next slide. So this is a section diagram through the site. You're looking north. So State Street is on your right-hand side. We tried really hard to work with the topography of the site, so the building kind of steps down as it goes down the hill. Again, the AHOP building is on the right, the rental building is on the left, and then underneath that center courtyard level, there's 2 levels of parking. And kind of at a very high level, just talk about the plan strategy if you want to go to the next slide. So on the right-hand side is that first level, that very bottom floor, on the sort of downside, west side of the hill. That building will try to take advantage of the view, so the ins and outs that you see in plan are balconies. The second level to the left of that has our first parking garage level. So there's no internal ramps. You'll be able to access each parking garage level essentially at grade by just sort of working with the existing grade. That parking lot will be associated with the rental building. You want to go up to the next, down to the next slide. On the right-hand side is level 3. That's a larger parking garage that serves the AHOP building. You'll be able to, essentially walk right from the garage to the core and head up to your unit. On this floor plan, on the right-hand side, you can start to see some amenity space in the rental building. So we've kind of sprinkled those throughout. On the sort of podium level where the courtyard is, we're contemplating using sort of that first level of the Smith Robinson House as a lobby for the AHOP building, and there's also a small lobby for the rental building on the left-hand side, as well as like a lab.
I'm gonna interrupt for a minute. I'm getting a text that nobody can hear you.
Full service. Thank you. Is that better? Well, I hear myself now.
Much better. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Please no. Yeah, so I think one of the kind of amazing things about the site strategy at the moment is that all the parking is hidden. Instead of having this gigantic surface lot that would be visible by all the residents and the surrounding community, we've managed to locate it below, an outdoor amenity space. Tucked to the far left-hand corner is where the swimming pool is. We imagined like some small cabanas and seating, and that pool would be, again, shared by all the residents. It's not just for like the rental building. If you want to continue to the next slide. So the floor plates for the AHOP building remain largely the same as you move up the building. The Smith Robinson House floor plate goes from being a lobby space to amenities. We picture like, lounge spaces and a gym and that kind of thing. On the rental building on the west-hand side, the top 2 levels turn into duplex units. So while the AHOP building is a mix of 1s and 2s, in the rental building, we have 1s, 2s, and like 4 3-bedroom units. And all the 2 bedrooms at the top are duplexes. So they'll have outdoor terraces that overlook the river on that side. Keep going. These are very preliminary. We've spent most of our time with the Wilder Balter and Insight team really thinking about the site strategy and how to best utilize the space. I think we had a couple of things in mind when it comes to just choosing a material palette and a facade design. And again, this is very preliminary, but we're looking for something that was sort of complementary to the Smith Robinson house without fighting it. Something that was neutral and sophisticated and timeless. And we really like this idea of textile and how that might be applied to architecture, where we might start to weave together texture and pattern and color in a way that kind of breaks down the scale of the facade and also creates a softness. Again, these are very preliminary renderings, but this is just to give kind of the look and feel of what the courtyard might feel like. And if you go to the next rendering, this is the building in context. So you can see sort of a long curved driveway that's coming off of State Street. That's the road that brings you up to the courtyard level. That's where the fire truck access would be, deliveries and drop offs, that kind of thing. The second street coming off of James gets you to that first parking level, and the one furthest west is what gets you to that lower parking level. So we're coming in at grade essentially for those 3 levels and kind of working with it. I imagine that there'll be plenty of people that leave through the Smith Robinson house to go to Main Street. So we're looking at, rebuilding those existing front steps, providing an accessible exit out of that building. And so you don't have to walk all the way around. But again, these are very preliminary, but the idea is to, create something that's sort of harmonious with the Smith Robinson house and kind of the surrounding context. So this was just, again, some very preliminary, like kind of material palette. I don't need to belabor the point, but the goal is to work with what's there and not fight it. So just to run you through, maybe if you want to just pause on the elevation or one of the renderings. We do need 3 variances in order to make this project happen as it's currently proposed. The first one is density bonus, which is allowed for in the zoning code. So the baseline zoning is 22 units per acre, which would roughly equate to 130 units. Through a special permit, we could go up to as high as 32 units per acre, which would result in 190, but we're proposing 150. So that's closer to, 25 units per acre. And Jim can talk a little bit more about that. The second variance that we'll need is on height. Maybe if you scroll back to where one of the sections, any one of these will do. Actually, the main section is probably best, yeah. So the zoning code is 4 stories or 48 feet, which we comply with on the State Street side. But as the building heads down the hill, we're looking for some greater height there. So we're not exceeding that 4 stories from the State Street side. On that end, we're 6 stories tall. We are also under the 220-foot maximum height above sea level. So we've maintained that height. So that would be variance number 2. And then the last one is just on livable floor area for the 1-bedroom units. In order to kind of comply with the maximum and minimums of HCR, and you guys are familiar with this issue, we're still not there on the 1-bedroom. Our livable floor area is 653 square feet, and I think Austining zoning code requires us to be at 750. So those are kind of the 3 main things that we would need special approvals on.
Good evening, Jim Wendling from WBP. First of all, not only did we get the good news about the brownfield, we also went hard on the contract today, so we were excited about that. And then just to clarify before I describe the AHOP program, which I want to do, just to clarify, because there might have been a little bit of an inconsistency between what Bill said and Michael said. 3 buildings, 2 AHOP buildings, which I'll explain in a second, but there are 100 units total. plus the 50-unit market rate rental, which is on the downhill side of the site. Shared exterior amenities, so shared courtyard and the space in between, shared pool, and separate indoor amenities. So the buildings would function separately. So indoor amenities for the AHOP 100 units and indoor amenities for the 50-unit rental. And I've heard myself say AHOP like 6 times in the past 30 seconds, and we heard it earlier. So just let me briefly describe it. It's a program that the state came out with about 2 years ago, Affordable Home Ownership Opportunity Program. Bill and I and our firm jumped all over it because we were very excited, and it's something that kind of fits the ethos of our company. We're doing 3 right now under construction, 1 in New Rochelle and 2 in White Plains. The program is set so household income is up to 100% AMI, but the sale prices are set at 80% AMI. It's a great program. When we do the tax credit rental program, similar to 30 Water Street, it's income average between 30 and 80. So this program came out 80 to 100%. So we're really excited about it. We're still working out the prices, but basically you're allowed to spend 33% of your gross income on housing, and you account for taxes and you account for common charges. And then you get to a amount you could pay for a mortgage. And from there you get to a sale price. So it's a program we're really excited about. We have a few more in the pipeline. We spent a lot of time kind of looking at this site, talking to marketing directors, talking to different leasing teams, talking internally about what we thought was the best execution. It's less units than was previously approved, and we think it's a really great mix between the market rate and the affordable for sale home ownership. So I think we'll pause there and answer any questions you might have.
Can't help myself. We're really excited about this. It is an opportunity. We like to fix problems, and this site needs this. We are really looking forward to improving this neighborhood and helping the streets around this to make this sort of an anchor of the neighborhood. We're looking to beautification on State Street, on James Street, on perhaps the James Street extension called Breakneck Hill. Breakneck Hill, as well as Hunter Street. We're really not just looking at our own site. This is just a great opportunity. The other thing I love about this, which is one of the things that we've done a bunch of that a lot of companies have shied away from, is we're basically saying we're putting affordable home ownership next to a market rate rental. And the affordable home ownership is 100 condos, and the rental is 50. And we are not worried at all about that because it's a great combination of people living there. We're sharing outdoor amenities. We just think it's a really cool project, and we're really excited about it. So I don't think I expressed that before, so I just wanted to express that. So we'd love to hear any questions you have.
Great. Thank you. I'm going to go around and then I'll go last. Bob, why don't you start, and we'll go from you to the rest of folks, and then Omar, who's coming in virtually.
Well, excuse me. I really don't have any questions. I love the concept. It's good to see you again. And we're just looking forward to hopefully something happening here. It's a really nice project.
Great. Pat?
Thank you very much. I agree. I'm on the board of the Children's Center right next door. So every time I go down there and I see the space next door, it just like irks me. But it's great. It would be great to see something, there. I like the concept. I like the use. I like the open space. I like the height restrictions from looking at it from the east elevation, right? So I like the fact that it, from the street level, it's four stories, right? Incorporation of it is the intent to sort of basically recreate the old house. Is that kind of like the deal with that? Because I see it in the pictures, but I just
I think that what we know we're going to do is to save the front facade and basically the returns about 8 or 10 feet down, and to keep it proud of the rest of the building because it's prominent and it should stay prominent. So that's our guiding principle. What Michael was alluding to is that the interior is really shot. It really is. But we're talking about trying to replicate some of the interior details because people are going to use that as an amenity. And like we've done this a lot in buildings that we have restored, where we're basically taking old components of the building and reusing them so that it's timeless or goes on forever. Like in Tarrytown, we did that on the Y, then we redid that. Some of it we were able to save, some of it we took out and put back. So I don't think we can say exactly what we're gonna do, but our spirit of what we want to do is to have it when you walk into the building to feel like, okay, this building's been here forever. I think the other piece that we didn't mention is we have every intention of doing some historical narrative of the building and of the property and the why we did on the inside of the building in our lobby. Here, because it's a condo, I don't think the public will see it, so I'm thinking we might do it on the outside and sort of maybe weatherproof bronze plaques. But I think it also, the property should be recognized. So I can't tell you exactly how we're gonna do it, but I know we're keeping the facade in the front and the return. I think we're gonna probably try to keep the rear facade as well. Past that, we're just not quite there yet.
Got it. I would,
And by the way, one other thing, because you mentioned it, I should have mentioned this. The state doesn't fund every development when we go to them. One of the things they're excited about is the Ossining Children's Centers next door.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very unusual to have a daycare center next door.
Yeah.
That's great.
so just to comment on that, I think not just to recognize not just the site, but if there is something like wonderful about like a woman empowered with her own business, like
Absolutely.
when was this? Like 80 years ago, right? Like that's very unusual, like back
Absolutely.
then. So I
Yeah.
would argue not just the site, but also her potentially,
Right.
right?
I mean, what
So-
we typically will do is we'll work with the village historian, like in Tarleton. We've done this a lot. We'll work with the historian, we'll work with the ex-historian on your board. So we'll do a good job of
Yeah.
making sure that the community has input on what we put out there, because it'll be there forever.
Yeah, so two things that for me would, it's probably a little early to specifically talk about, but you know, we have had steep slope issues locally, right? We still seeing one just down the street there. So at some point it would be good to have a like really good, deep understanding of the engineering and what you're doing to make sure that doesn't happen there, right?
Yeah.
Okay, but you know, we don't need to get into it now, but
Yeah.
for that perspective. And then the other one would be, I think you're gonna need a good narrative around the traffic flow, especially traffic going up, James Street and ultimately like that intersection right across like at Maurice and Route 9, right?
Yes.
Okay, like I would see most of the traffic going in and out there. I think you're gonna need a good story and a good plan for that. And obviously Route 9 is a state street, so that's complicates things a little bit, right?
You know? Thank you. There's no such thing as an ex-historian, just it's a start.
Say again?
No such thing as an ex-historian. Once a historian, always a historian.
Sorry.
That's what, former village historian.
Did I say X? You're right. Sorry. Form.
Um,
Get away from my phone.
This just sounds so, I'm not doing that anymore. I don't care. Certainly not the case. So when you say you saved the facade of the Smith Robinson house, you're just talking about the front or the whole shell, the shell of it, the limestone shell of it? The whole,
The limestone shell.
okay, okay.
And
So,
also, as we talked about it, you and I talked about offline, we're really making an effort to restore, what's there now is not the roof that was originally there. You still have a
I'm
cupola.
sure, yeah.
So we're trying to basically not just bring back the front of the building, but also, I should have mentioned that with the cupola.
Yeah, no, the cupola is, a very cool feature.
It's
Very
also can be
common when it
visible
was
from
built.
anywhere, which is cool.
You could go up there and look down the river and see what was coming. The interior, I understand, yeah, I went in there with you and it is sad to see how it was neglected because it wasn't that bad a few years ago. But there are pieces I would love to see salvaged. Especially the carved moldings on the doorways. Some of them have fallen off, and even if you can't reuse them, I'd hate just to see that stuff go in the landfill. I don't know how that works, but I always like to see these old structures at least get salvaged to some extent, right?
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of trees on the property, right? Like toward the back, are those, a lot of them gonna stay, the trees?
Yeah, well, where the trees, can we go to, if it's, if we go to the first, one of the first slides?
Yeah, it looked like a forest.
One more, go back up.
Sure.
Two more up, sorry.
That first
that's good,
aerial
okay.
shot
Yeah,
really
yeah,
should,
that's good,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So, as you can see, the part of the, most of the development is where the site's disturbed. And then if you were sort of come down James Street and take a right at the property line and just sort of go straight across, our building goes into that a little bit, but everything to the left, we're really not touching. I say we're not touching, we've proposed an area to do some sort of pocket park if the village wants us to. This was, we learned during our work with the village historian that this was the oldest African-American park in Westchester, in that exact area where we put this pocket park. So I think it's early for the village to tell us what they want, but I think we should be working with the village to see if there's something they want us to do there. But if we don't do anything there, then it won't get disturbed. I think what is certainly should be done is the underbrush should be cut out, because the trees that are there are now suffering because there's been no maintenance. But in terms of leaving the significant trees, we're planning on leaving everything where we don't have buildings. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's a good point. Also, the brownfield site doesn't include the part of the site we're saving. So we don't have to take it down to clean the site, which is great.
I think the Vera Newman aspect of it is very cool. She was probably the leading textile designer in the world in the mid-century. And they printed everything here. And she lived in the old building with her husband. And then they moved to Croton, some fancy mid-century Breuer house they had built. But, I don't know if there's, that's funny, the Vera brand is owned, it's very small now. It's very small and it's owned by like 2 women in the South. But I don't know if there's any way to maybe license any of the designs. She did floral abstracts. She did, she was they had an amazing show at the Museum of Design a few years ago. She was astonishingly talented as an artist, and to look at those and draw inspiration from that, I'm a mid-century art person. I love all that. But it's just a very cool thing. And ironically, I mean, that house was, just a rich guy's house at first, built by convict labor is the other thing, of stone quarried by prisoners right over there. And they had to schlep it up the hill by ox cart. So that in and of itself is kind of a, not a great history, but then it's had so many different stories to tell, this house. And it would be great to tell that story. So anyway, it is exciting. I think that I imagine we'll have some public engagement
We will.
for the surrounding area.
Yes, we will.
You're gonna hear some opinions.
Yeah.
I think, Broad Avenue will also get a lot more traffic. It's gonna change things. And there are people that live there that may not want to see that, but this is good change. This is affordable housing. It's good change. So, I think it'll be okay. It's just something I'm anticipating, but, I think it's very exciting as well. Omar, I think you're up. If you have any comments.
Indeed. Thank you for the great presentation. I would say, to double down on what Dana just said, the public engagement is going to be huge. What we did in the 30 Water Street, I think, was a good blueprint. We will need to do that and more in this case. Super excited, really grateful for all the work that's gone into it so far and making this vision a reality.
Are you on a plane, Omar? He doesn't want to say where he is. I don't know where he is. I'm kidding. It doesn't matter.
Of course.
Thank you. He was done, right? Okay. So I'm really excited about this. I don't want to be redundant and repeat what everybody said. So great presentation. Thank you. Got the whole team. I feel like everybody should have 5 minutes to speak, but we'll be here all night. But I appreciate you bringing the team in order to answer questions that we might have. So I don't want to repeat what was said. I do want to say, all kidding aside, that historians have different ways of looking at things. And while our current village historian has added so much value, you and I took a walk on that property for like an hour a few weeks ago. So I just want to point out that, Karen, I also think we can be helpful in some grants, because is it PJ, the African-American woman in Irvington whose house, CJ Walker, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars given towards that, and then a foundation and all sorts of stuff. So also a woman entrepreneur, very well known. I'm sure that there's something we can do for the community so that we can participate from a historic point of view. I'm not sure that Joyce knows all that history. She has, between the two of you, I think it'll be amazing to do that. I would imagine even creating some wallpaper with one of her designs, like for,
Great idea.
would be
for the
like,
building.
yeah, free of charge. Look at this, how much we're
No,
doing
that's a good
together.
idea.
But I actually think that would be really cool. And I think we can help with that in the village. I can help with that. Dana, I think we can do some stuff. So let me tell you stuff I really love and some of the things that are challenging. I'll start with the great stuff. First of all, the idea of having both affordable and ownership, so rental and ownership in the same place, I think is fantastic. For years, we've been saying it's continuously being asked to be overdeveloped. It is a very densely populated area in our community. And it is a part of the community that I'm not sure has always been treated as well as it should have been. There are also tons of rentals. That means there's tons of cars parked there. Every weekend, every time somebody wants to have a birthday party for their 1-year-old, there's no parking because there's so many apartment buildings and so little footage. There's no real park over there for kids to just go and play, to walk your dog, like normal stuff that you think about the suburbs versus big cities. It feels a little bit more big city-ish, although it's slow rises, but still. So I think ownership, courtyard, rental combination it's got to be a winner all the way around. And ownership of condos, so much better than co-ops, frankly, but condos is just a big win all the way around. And 100 of those units, young couples, old couples, whatever. It's great. And I think that to me is the biggest win of this whole thing. And explaining to the public in the engagement period, as Dana had said and Omar said, is important because I don't think we've done a mixture like this and the advantages of that and why there's advantage. No one mentioned, so I don't know if something has changed since we spoke, but that about a third of these units are supposed to be for Austining folks, but nobody mentioned it. Has something changed since we've last
No,
spoken?
what I think I told you is that in places that have a diverse population, we have been able to seek from the State Office of Fair Housing the ability to do some level of local preference. We have to demonstrate the demographics. We're doing this right now in White Plains for development, and also we'll be doing
Okay.
something similar in New Rochelle. So I didn't mention it because it's not done yet, but that is our intention.
Okay, so that to me is the slant, that to me
That would be
is
great.
the whole
Yeah,
thing.
right. And I think, by the way, I think you know your demographics better than I do. I think your demographics will work well for it.
Yeah, it will. So that to me is the biggest win of this. Why? Because while politicians talk about housing and housing shortages, now they're going to solve world hunger. The truth is that in every community I've ever seen, the people that live there keep saying, we understand all that, but it's not for our children and it's not for us. It's for everybody else. We're just online like everybody else, but we have to live with the dirt and the development and all that. See, what's happening here is 30%, 25%, 32%, whatever the percentage is, it's going to be fantastic if we're able to. That would be a slam dunk. And there's no reason we shouldn't have that because then it's actually for the people who live here and then everybody else rather than the other way around. I think that's going to be huge. And especially if we can explain that and really, so I think that's fantastic.
That's always one of the biggest complaints that we.
Every single time it's like, yeah, but it's not for us. You're building all this stuff and we live with it, but it's nothing to do with us. So especially in this area where this development, as you know, has just been sitting vacant and
Yeah.
there's all sorts of problems there because of that. So I'm very excited about that. I'm not excited about 150 units. I've spoken about this. I think it's so densely populated, but if it's the best we can get, it's the best we can get, but not 1 over 150. I mean, that's a lot in the area because what that picture doesn't show that we all know is all those trees are where they are and they don't have to do that because it's a cliff. I mean, I couldn't walk down that thing without getting hurt. It's like a straight down drop. It makes the views amazing. The views, the way you guys are building it, multi-million-dollar views as far as I'm concerned. And it's nice that it's both the affordable, the condos, everybody. It's very equitable. It's not like, the more affordable things are in the back somewhere facing, concrete. That you built it in a way in that shape that I think is fantastic. And the center is open, so there's air, and a lot of views in different directions. The duplex idea, love that idea. The whole thing feels great. Right, Maddie? Yeah.
And I forgot to ask the ownership, the 100 units, Are those basically going to be apartments you can buy? When you say townhomes?
The 100
apartment.
affordable homeownership is just like a regular condo, it's just less expensive. So you
Okay.
buy a condo, when we're all done, the board, the 100 people who own it will control the ownership. They'll control the board. Eventually, we will have nothing to do with that building. The rental building we will own.
Mhm.
When Jim was talking about why, he
Right.
was talking about the indoor amenities are not shared, that's why, because the condo folks will want to have
Their own.
control of their own amenities. And we understand that.
But they're apartments. If you're thinking
yeah.
multi-level
they're
townhouses like
apartments.
some. of
Yeah,
them-
they're apartments. The look is apartment, but you
But they're
own,
condos, you own them.
yeah, like on Main Street above Vaza.
Yeah, exactly like that. So love that. Love the idea that there's a pool being put in there because you need space in there. Love the idea of the views. It's all good. The parking, I have a beef about how little parking and
We
that's a
added parking.
code issue, but I know you didn't mention that though.
Sorry, oh, yes.
You
we
did
should-
not mention, we had a
Yes.
conversation about that. You lead with because that area has a parking issue.
Yeah, so following a conversation with a board member, we have about 20% more parking than required, about 20% more parking than the
I
zoning.
think you said
requires.
26 spaces, no? About?
More than that.
It's more than that?
So we have another 38 spaces.
38.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that when we do the, and this is unlike 30 Water, which you kept talking, which you keep talking about, which is great. 30 Water, the village owned, different story. This is not the village property. This is private property owned by these folks, and they're coming in front because they're going to need to work with planning and zoning, the whole thing. Here, they're just doing a presentation to the board. And I'm sure Valerie, you're gonna have a few things to say after this, or am I, okay. Yeah, I'd like you to speak to that. I love like the idea that on that other side, if we can offer the community a park, I wouldn't go pocket, I would go larger than pocket, but something for folks, either publicly or for the development, that would be very helpful. The picture, what it doesn't do justice to, but we all know sitting here because we live here, is how tight that space it is. Really inside a very old residential area. There's stuff every square foot. The beauty of it though, because it's a cliff, is that the parking has multiple entrances. One of the biggest problems we have is it's like one entrance, maybe a second, and it's just a disaster between 8 and 9 in the morning. You know, everybody's going and you've got the center right next door. So that's a lot of little kids being dropped off. The beauty of this is that because it's the way it is, there are multiple entrances to it. I think that's fantastic.
It worked out
And
well, really did.
the way you guys put it together, that was never presented to us by anybody else. And yeah, that crazy parking thing on a carousel, whatever the hell that was, but that was before my time, but whatever. But this is great because it actually allows for a lot of space. And I love the whole piece of it and the history part. So those were all my notes. Everything you have to go now, Valerie's going to tell us about some of the other pieces that have to happen next. But this is great. And congratulations. The timing turned out to be great that you've gotten the green light on a few things.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that we can help with a few. And I know Karen already gave you the riot act about how important community engagement is, not only for this project, for all projects. It really makes a difference over a 3-year period that it takes to typically build all this stuff.
We agree.
Valerie, talk to us.
So
Tell us what's going on.
I'll just kind of summarize the process. So they'll be submitting to both the planning board and the village board simultaneously. The village board is responsible for the special permit process,
Not
which
the
is,
village board.
you're the village board, yeah.
Okay, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Yeah, sorry, you scared me for a second.
No, go ahead.
The village
I
board
got the
will be,
planning,
yeah.
with the special permits, got,
Right. So the village board will be responsible for
sorry.
for the special permit process. So what's going to take place is the applicant will appear before the planning board to begin their process. The planning board will be reviewing the application and they will also be appearing before the zoning board of appeals for any variances that are necessary. The Historic Preservation Commission, because it is a locally landmarked building, and then the Environmental Advisory Council, because for the local waterfront revitalization plan consistency. So throughout the process, they'll be appearing before those various boards. We'll be working them through the process. And then ultimately, they'll be back before this board for the special permit approval once everything else is taken care of.
Is there a timeline that we need?
So we're hoping to get, well, since this project has already had prior approvals, and so there's been a prior environmental review process that might reduce the time in which the application would, typically go, because of the fact that in prior approvals, there have been, was it already an environmental impact statement? So what they're in the process of doing is doing a comparative analysis from what was prior approval to what they're proposing now, and then updating a number of those studies like the traffic study. So that will help reduce some of the time period, but again, that's still in the beginnings of phases. So we're hoping to potentially have this process wrapped up within the next 6 months. This is assuming, though, that all the documents are submitted, that the environmental review comes out, fine in terms of not exceeding a lot of thresholds, and then also assuming that they proceed in front of all the boards and the boards grant their approval.
Because like everybody else is privately held, so they
Right.
have to go through the same process everybody else does. Paul, any comments? You've been through this, you're not up to bat, it's just that you happen to be sitting here for for another piece of this. I asked that because the comment was made, Paul, that this is not just about the property line, up to the line you own, but there's sidewalks, there's all sorts of other stuff. So are you already involved, or do you plan to be involved? Or you have any comments on it?
We had a very preliminary walk through the site just to get our arms around what they can expect as far as off-site improvements that are tangential to their project. So I think we're all on the same page. We're gonna definitely help not just the aesthetics, but the walkability and the infrastructure of the community that surrounds the parcel with some of the things that we're likely going to ask for. But the details of that are probably premature. We'll start vetting that during the planning board process.
Right, and also community, I think when we engage your community, we may get some, we will get some feedback from the community. I'm 100% sure about
I
that.
just have one question.
Sure.
Since Paul's standing there, don't go nowhere.
Yeah, don't run away.
The,
It's really small.
the
There's
previous-
nowhere to go.
The previous upgrade to the water lines and everything, that's sufficient for what we need?
What
Yeah.
they need, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
we won't have any source capacity issues.
Okay,
And the lines, the sanitary sewer lines, the gas mains are new, and the stormwater is some of the work that we're going to look to have done as part of the infrastructure.
yeah, because I know preliminary, the other property owner had this work, we did the work and made us whole finally, but
Well,
that,
in short, we didn't do it for the property owner. We were doing a water lining project in the area for our
Yeah.
potable water system.
right,
And we basically levied a prorated charge against that development to compensate us for the lining that was taking place that would eventually serve his parcel.
all right, thank you.
Okay, sounds great, thank
The
you.
other thing I should mention about Vera Newman is
Oh.
that she employed a lot of people in the village. Her
We're gonna
employees
do
lived
some
here.
Story about her.
And, and a lot of people who still live here remember their parents working there or, that was a big deal. So, I like the feeling of this being done in the spirit of community and in the spirit of history and in the spirit of people being able to own property. So,
Good.
Great.
Thank you.
This
all so
this
much.
is really, I'm gonna even use the word fun. This is like fun for
Wow.
us because usually I know, not a word I often use in these meetings. But it's the ownership part, and Karen and I spoke about this 3 years ago. We gotta find somebody that we can trust, who's a decent developer. We gotta get people to own more things. The rental is not a great future
Yeah.
for folks.
that's
and
how you build
ownership-
generational wealth.
and
too,
it's
through
got,
real
that's
estate.
where it starts. So I
know.
think that would be a very exciting thing. If you get that other piece where it goes to some folks in Ossining, that I think will be huge. It's got a whole community feel to it. So I thank you for coming in.
Thank you all for your enthusiasm.
guys
We
are
really
welcome.
appreciate it. Makes
Yeah.
it more fun to
Thank
do.
you all for being here. Did you have anything to add? I didn't ask.
I just want to add that I had joined Paul and the Bolter team walking the area. I think we have some good ideas for improvements in the neighborhood as well as community engagement. So we're excited to get started on that. This is a
Great.
really important project. So thank you very much.
Thank you for all your help.
Thank
Appreciate it.
you.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you,
Good night.
folks. I will just warn you that if you're going to speak out in that hallway, we will be able to hear everything.
All right. Next, last time we met, Valerie was here to talk about Station Plaza zone changes. Tonight it's RDD changes. Why don't you continue the conversation, Valerie? Thank you.
I think, yes, just last time I was before you, we did talk about the RDD changes and you referred it over to the planning board for their recommendation. The planning board came back with a positive recommendation. We had a meeting last night. So we are ready to, if this board so chooses, to move it forward to the next step, which is basically bring it to a legislative meeting and calling for a public hearing. If you recall, this is just to remove residential uses from the Riverfront Development District. Yeah, per the comprehensive plan.
So Stuart, if this is all agreed upon, then this will be on for next week?
It's 20. We don't have a meeting until August 13th is a work session.
You're right.
It will be the legislature.
Okay.
All right. The next topic, also a zoning topic, is cannabis zoning. And we do have an update from Valerie. We had also worked with our land use council on this as well, to really determine what the best next steps are for the village, given this is all sort of a new process with the state. But Valerie has some good input and updates on cannabis zoning, so. Okay, I wasn't sure if Taryn was still joining. Okay.
So, Jamie, if you could pull up the map. So last time I was before this board.
Second.
It's my.
I don't think your mic's working. Jamie's her mic working? It's working? Oh, I
Yes,
fast.
sounds great.
All right, sorry, go ahead.
So last time I was before the board, we talked about potentially limiting cannabis, the cannabis use, which would mean right now, any cannabis dispensaries falls under the sales oriented retail. And when I was last before the board, we talked about a number of zoning districts that would allow for retail. The village has 2 that have already been approved. And there's a third one pending before the planning board at this point. And then I think there's a few others that are 2 others that have already submitted letters of intent. One of the things that the board had questions on were how many properties would be prohibited based upon the distances from schools or places of worship. You saw a map a number of years ago when the legislation first came out. And at that point in time, while the distances pretty much stayed the same in terms of 200 feet from a house of worship and 500 feet from a school, how the measurements were actually undertaken were slightly different. So the maps you saw previously kind of looked at a 200-foot buffer from the property boundary. And since then, the state law has been revised to specifically say on the same road within 200 feet of an entrance of a building. And it's the same thing that's for a house of worship. And then for school, it's 500 feet on the same road within 500 feet of the entrance of a building. So what we prepared for you is an update to that map. And this update shows, and it's a little hard to see on the TV screen, it was part of your packet, but we did have only the zoning districts highlighted in red that allow for retail. And in there, we also have all properties in gray that would technically be prohibited from having cannabis use. I'm going to say this is very conservative because we did 200 feet from this on the same road, but not necessarily from the individual like building entrance, right? So you might even have a few more properties that are eligible for cannabis retail. So what you'll see basically, I think the bottom line is that you have a lot of properties that still have the potential for cannabis retail within the village of Ossining. So the question then comes as to whether this board is interested in maybe limiting limiting certain zoning districts and creating a new use. However, I'm going to put another caveat to all this because literally in the last few weeks, there have been new amendments to the regulations where the state is, I guess, being more strict in terms of the limitations communities can put on. We did talk to Taryn. Okay. So one of the, as part of McCullough Goldberg and Stout's firm, the planning board attorney, Linda Whitehead, and her colleague, Taryn Ramsey, that they both have researched this a lot. And so we are working with them closely if this board wants to consider looking at placing some restrictions in terms of zoning, and we can come back with some ideas. So this is just really an initial discussion, and Stuart can talk a little bit about, what his initial, recent findings are, but they're, the state is really trying to encourage these uses coming in, but we just kind of wanted to have that conversation, whether this board wants to start selecting particular areas, maybe to exclude.
Okay, Stuart, I think we should listen to what Stuart has to say and then have the discussion.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of things to. One thing the board might want to consider is a moratorium with regard to further cannabis at this point. It's not prohibited. Schenectady did it last year, and a couple of other towns have done it as well. What the board, what it was the regs themselves did not change, but the Office of Cannabis Management has essentially made their interpretation of the regulations much stricter. So what they're saying is you can only deal with time, place, and manner restrictions. And the statute and the regs actually list what those time, place, and manner restrictions are. They're retail hours of operation, the visual or architectural integrity of the building if you're in a historic district, parking, traffic control, odor control, noise, and certain distance requirements. That's basically it. And in fact, if you pass legislation and someone challenges your legislation before the Office of Cannabis Management, and if they come back and OCM comes back and says that your legislation is not proper, it's presumptively invalid. The other side is that if you propose legislation and someone challenges it before you approve it, and the Office of Cannabis Management says it's inappropriate, you are barred from passing that legislation. So the issue we have here is that creating a new use may or may not be appropriate because you have already allowed certain areas where cannabis dispensaries are allowed. What you do not have on in your code at all are time, place, and manner restrictions. You don't have anything about hours. You don't have anything about noise or parking or anything like that, which you can do. You are absolutely permitted to do that under your code.
Okay.
So that's something you may want to.
So the distance is part of what you were just discussing.
So distances are already, these are already worked into the regular cannabis, the state cannabis law.
But you said we have the right to legislate on distance.
Yeah.
You can't go more than the state's distances. You can't, in other words, the state says 200 feet, you can't make it 5. You're not permitted to do that. And if you do, your law would be presumptively suspect.
I'm sorry, you just said that there are 5 things that we could do: time,
Right.
parking, play, right?
You can be less than the minimum, but you can't be more.
You can't act like you're being restrictive and making
That-
it harder.
correct.
So of the 5 licenses, I know that I think one place is about to open. One guy seems to have to be rebuilding his wall, and then the nursery is still in the process before the planning board. One of these licenses, there isn't even a building on the lot, and I don't know how you apply for a cannabis permit when there's no place.
One thing to keep in mind, the 30-day notice that we get, that's done before the application is even filed with the Office of Cannabis Management. So as Linda Whitehead reminded me today, many of the times that people file these 30-day notices, they literally never follow through with doing an
Okay.
application.
All right.
So while and Maddie does this, we get an extension of time and we come before you. Until there's an actual application, it's really sort of like nothing. So I think it's more important to look at what is actually in sort of the planning board funnel at this point, and in terms of what has been approved. The new one that just came in at this point, again, until there's an application filed and we start hearing stuff from OCM, it's probably nothing for us to do at all.
And the other one is in the old Westwood Flooring building?
And for that, I think, Maddie, we've gotten 3 or 4 for the same location.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, it's not the first time we've heard about somebody wanting to own.
Yes, thank you. So 140 South Highland is one that's come up. I think I've sent you 5 notices for that property. It appears as though this one might stick based on my conversation with the applicant. And then the other one that's pending that you made reference to, Trustee White, is 173, 175 North Highland, which is just proud of the Brandon Furniture store. So the parcels that are closer to North Highland Avenue.
So they would have to build a building.
Correct.
but that-
That's a long.
So again, back to you, Valerie, what can we do? So I'm hearing all things we can't do.
Well, I think we're here tonight to kind of get a sense from the board of things that you're interested in potentially looking at, seeing what we can do. So just as Stuart mentioned, like, so for example, if for some reason this board really would like to focus on some particular zoning districts or limit the zoning districts, we can look into that to see if it's possible. Right, there are certain requirements that you can't make it unduly difficult, right, to bring in the retail once you say you're an opt-in community, but that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be all over the entire village. But because there's this constant change in the rulemaking that we need a little bit more time, and working with both Stuart and Linda and Taryn to just kind of get a sense of what we feel comfortable with bringing back to this board. But we really want to kind of get an idea of what this board is interested in its concerns are, and then we can start looking into that.
Did you have a question? Either of you? I thought
Yeah.
both of you looked like you had questions.
So, sure. So, total one, thank you for the pre-work. 2, I've always been kind of pro cannabis, but I do believe at some point there's a density question. Right. So, for me, as I think about different approaches and different ways to kind of is there some sort of a density kind of approach to it? I don't know if there's anything like that. In terms of the different type of retail establishment. So if you could provide examples of other locations or other zoning rules which have broken down retail by subcategory, like, because I think that's a relevant, there's a gas station is a retail outlet, but it's a separate kind of retail outlet. Or
I can in fact send to you, the city of Schenectady was one that just did that in February. They actually set a zone, a cannabis use.
Yeah.
So then within certain districts, that use is what can be done. Other
Yeah.
places have done it that way. They sort of carved out a specific use, because right now it would be under our retail.
Yep.
You essentially have to make a subcategory
Right.
of retail or a separate category.
So I'm even thinking a little broader, right? So the other one for me, which I'd be interested in understanding, are the smoke shops.
Schenectady is another good example, because what they did is their local law involves smoke shops, hookah shops, and cannabis shops.
Yeah.
And they basically have 3 articles depending on which one it is, and basically puts them all in terms of what kind, for example, what a number of these local laws do is they require a special permit be issued. And the special permit would be generally through the Board of Trustees. And some of the smaller municipalities, it's to one of the other land use boards. That's another way that it's
Yeah.
done in terms of reviewing and seeing what's going on.
That's not, I'll go look it up. I can go look up the law if you have it. and-
Yeah, there's a number of communities that have laws like that with both the smoke shops and the retail cannabis.
Yes, I would envision potentially those two being included, right? The other one, and I don't think, just given what you had said, you can't make distance regulations less permissive. But are there any examples of distances from parks being put in place?
No, parks are not referenced as a distance marker. I believe it's just
Right.
Schools, religious educations. There are, if you want to call it, and I forget, the term is
Community.
public youth facility.
Yes.
But that would be a facility that is almost exclusively for youth to be used. So if it's sort of a rec center, but where it's only for kids, that there is a distance requirement for that. But to answer your question directly, Trustee Yost, there's no distance requirement as it relates to a park or anything like
No,
that.
then
It's all physical buildings.
So the question would it be possible to create one?
It's possible. I mean, you might well be able to, again, in a sense, it's sort of a risk analysis here, because if someone were to challenge, look, we
Yep.
could obviously, and then it's.
That's
the
what I'm
questions
asking. That's
with
what I'm
the
asking,
analysis By what does OCM come back and say?
Right.
And again, as I said, it's the only place I've ever seen it where basically, if the agency comes back before you pass your local law and says it's no good, you can't pass it. In other words, you're like dead in the water right there. So it's.
So you kind of have to start over all over.
You would have to
just start all over
again.
Okay,
Something.
understood.
With that one item.
Yeah,
not the whole
so I would, for example, though, argue that immediately across the street from the South Highland location is a children's playground. Children's only. Right, so, it's
think it's a good idea.
that's where, that's one of those kind of components.
The children's playground near there?
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
right across.
Right across the street.
Drive out,
No, what else?
yeah, and it's at it's on the south side of Nelson Park.
The other thing that occurred to me, I'm very,
You done?
oh, sorry.
He's not done.
Sorry, I
Okay.
thought about it, right?
No.
I thought of it.
Piggyback.
He's
but
got his
okay.
notes.
I got my notes.
He's looking through his notes.
Yeah, I went online and yeah.
Yeah, go ahead,
got
keep
the
going.
notes up. So for me, the parking limit one was one that very clearly came up to me that I thought would be an appropriate,
Mhm.
like way to manage it, right? In
Mhm.
terms of kind of
Right.
from that perspective. So I'd actually thought about that. And then if I had to pick zoning districts where I would not, I would, BC and C2, to me immediately pop out as places where it may or may not make sense, in addition to the, just looking at the map. Okay, no, not.
Could you tell our viewing audience what those zones are that?
That you
Makes
just
sense.
named.
Neighborhood Center 2 and Village Center.
Village Center being downtown?
Well, it's fairly
Yeah.
close, right? And includes up Croton Avenue as well, and NC2, it includes Croton Avenue, a little bit up, like where Matcha's Motor, or no, Bobby Nolan's Motors is, there's a little sliver of it there. And so, but NC1 is where there already is one, so I'm not sure that
Mhm.
can be.
Well, technically, there is one in NC2 too, but we can take a look at all that.
Bob, do you have anything to add?
My mic's on, Jess. The South Highland property. I'm just looking at the zoning map real quick. And maybe I'm just not. I'm looking at the.
He's got a map right there, no?
I got it right in front of me.
Okay.
That's why I bring my computer. Nelson Avenue. I'm looking at the corner. Does that incorporate that woodworking building in there? Is that in that NC or a GB? It's hard to tell.
I think it's, the woodworking building is in the GB.
Okay, just, that's all I had. I just had a question about
Okay.
that, just looking at the maps. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Dana, did you complete your thought?
Um, well, I've had a little bit of a change of heart about this in terms of thinking about downtown and Main Street and that area and our new Market Square that's going to be there. And how you don't want, like, a lot of people smoking in Market Square. I personally don't. I mean, it's, just. And if you have a dispensary on Main Street, it's, gonna be easy to just walk across the street and light up. I personally don't, I don't know if there's a way to say, okay, the historic district is exempt, or, because right now, if somebody wanted to open up on Main Street, we have someone way down on Lower Main, but that's not really downtown. But that's just something that I just don't think for quality of life, you want people like hanging out there smoking it up, which is what's going to happen in the parks. And you're going to have to, it's already happening, I'm sure, but you have to police that, right? So that was just a thought I had. Otherwise, me, I believe in the free market, right? But I also believe that, not everybody wants to be exposed to the smell, to whatever, especially parks. So that was just a thought I had.
Okay. Omar, you have something to say before I go?
Yes, I do. So I appreciate the work that has gone into this, and I also have had a little bit of a change of heart, but it's just a little smaller one. So I came into the original conversation feeling like, listen, as long as it follows the regulations, let folks go wherever they want to go, and then the place where we landed was like, oh wait, it seems like there's a lot of these shops kind of popping up. Should we have some sort of limitations? And I felt like, yeah, that makes sense. Let's create some of these limitations. But in hearing what Stuart said and what Valerie has shared with us, to me, actually, the most instructive resource was looking at the Office of Cannabis Management a website's map that shows for the whole state of New York. You can zoom into whatever municipalities and you can see where they have cannabis dispensaries that are open, ones that are in process, and you can kind of see where they are all throughout. And what struck me was that in places like Ossining, where there aren't established dispensaries, there's a number of applications. But if you look at places that do have established dispensaries, there aren't a ton of other applications. And so I think this is largely a problem that is going to solve itself. Once you have 2, maybe 3 dispensaries in Ossining, it just won't make financial sense for folks to want to do it, and they won't. And my evidence for that is looking around the rest of the state for more established places. It's not like places that have established dispensaries are seeing tons of applications. And so my feeling is I would be comfortable if folks wanted to continue going down the road of let's find ways of limiting this. Sure, I'm happy to take a look at that. I'm not staunchly against it by any means, but I do feel like this is a problem that is going to solve itself, and that's where I currently stand.
Great, thank you. So you came here, I think, for a few things, right? Like, where does the board stand? So the board, I think, almost unanimously, or 4.5, because Omar is fine either way, we're not limiting usage of cannabis, that's an impossibility, or the smoking of it anywhere you want, that's also an impossibility. Well, it's not impossible because we don't allow smoking in our parks, et cetera, and that needs to be enforced. But there seems to be a lot of dispensaries, and we sort of said, we'll just go with what the state has. We spent hours looking at maps, hours being told, like, this is, it's from this to here to there, and we actually like drew lines. But it feels like the goalposts have been shifted on us in a dramatic way. And worse than that, we don't even get to say in it. I never have a problem if we do something and then some agency says, no, you can't, because until you do it, you're just not going to know. And I'm not going to say you're guessing and doing risk analysis, because I just don't know how to do risk analysis on something that is so new. So yes, on the Schenectady model that Stuart talked about, it is smart, I think, to look at cannabis, smoke shop, and what was the other? There's three.
Hookah lounge.
Hookah.
Hookah, okay. What, Andy? Did you have a question? Oh, okay. So you had a question. So to look at it like in total, right? Smoke shops, in my opinion, I go to Manhattan a lot. They're the biggest problems, as it turns out, and not necessarily the cannabis. I was in Colorado, lots and lots of cannabis stores near the highways. People they drive on and off. It's a different environment. So that doesn't seem to be smoke shops that apparently are now the problems. So I think looking at the whole thing is a yes on that. I really like what Pat Yost talked about, is to look at the park, and especially children's playgrounds as one of the pieces, because they basically change the goalposts on us. And I really have to say that for a board that I think almost unanimously said, let's give this a shot. Employment, business, development. And it feels like you're sort of damned if you do, right? Not only you're not damned if you don't. A lot of the affluent communities at the last minute shifted and said, no, we're not going to do it. And a lot of the other communities that are more populated, and it feels like we're getting punished again. And it doesn't feel good from that perspective. I also think that Omar Lopez is right, that there will be a natural elimination, but that could take years. And while that's going on, those buildings on those areas are going to sit empty. So I don't know if the marketplace will take care of itself. I don't know about that. But yes, on the board is in favor of looking to sort of put a stake in the ground, because I think what we did is say, we will not put a stake, we will go with the state. And what we now have to do is actually say the hours, the time, the place, the whatever. I think we're going to have to do regs on those, because once we have the regs, then we have them. So whatever levers we are allowed to do and whatever the maximums are, I think we should look at that. And then we could always say no to it, but I think we should now have it. We can't just go with the state anymore, because I think that's like a default that maybe we thought was smart. We now maybe need to pull back. I mean, it's not going to affect the smoking. It's just not affecting that. That's not the purpose. The question is, how many of these places can you do? And the problem with the free marketplace is, if a place makes $1 million a month, if it grosses $1 million a month, which is a number that gets used, the marketplace will still allow more places to be open, because there will be people willing to make 800,000 and people willing to make 500,000 and 200,000. So it'll take a long time before the marketplace takes care of the competition by itself. Arguably, that's why Carvel has franchises. They only allow you to open for 1.5 miles, and you can't open anymore because the marketplace doesn't actually take care of itself as quickly as you hope it will. But who knows? I don't know. Nobody knows. You had a comment, so I mean, it's a go on.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with that, but my question is to Stuart. So if we were to set a moratorium on this, does it affect what's in the
Thank
hopper
you for
now?
reminding us about that.
That really be a decision you folks would have to make as to where you would want to do. You could, as you did with the SPN and RDDs, essentially stop everything in its tracks, and just do it. What, for example, to go back, what Schenectady did is they essentially set a date that if there were applications in the hopper before X date, those applications will proceed. But any application after that date, I believe they passed that law in February, they passed that law in December of 24. And so their date was basically like November of 24, which was their cutoff date. After that, they basically said nothing.
Okay, so,
So you do it a variety of ways.
and how long is
What's
it
the maximum?
moratorium?
You just passed, I think, was 6 months to be renewed, 2 months and 2 months.
Okay, so it leads
Are
me
you
to the,
suggesting that during those 6 months, we can look at this issue? Is that what you're suggesting?
that's where I'm going with this,
Okay.
to maybe set a
Yes.
moratorium. We've already got, what, 2 in a hopper? Definite
Those
2.
aren't applications, though.
No,
They're notices, they're not
No,
applications,
no,
so they wouldn't.
talking about North Highland
Right, two
And Main Street.
approvals, right.
and
it's before the
what about
planning
the
board.
bakery, North High?
Oh,
That
he's
one
well-
already is approved.
He's
So
well
it's
on the
three.
way, yeah.
Yeah, the third, right.
So,
Right down the street from each other, basically.
right.
So
My thought is to set a moratorium so we can dive
okay.
into this a little deeper.
So do we decide on a moratorium tonight? Can we decide?
No, I don't want to, I don't know. I don't want to rush. them. Moratoriums can be, I don't
What?
know. It's a serious thing. you
Why?
know, And it's gonna, I don't know if I'm ready to do that tonight.
Well, why is it a serious thing, though?
Because
Share with me.
you're basically stopping, development in an area that you had previously said was okay.
No,
It has a chilling effect.
they can carry,
Not a
correct?
development.
If you, the board, trustee White can do it a variety of ways, to the extent that you've got two that have already been approved. And you got one that's about to be
Right.
approved, your moratorium can be that anything that is now in the planning board process proceeds.
Right.
But anything that has not been filed yet
Right.
is basically.
So what's the
stopped.
point of having a moratorium?
So we can dive into this a little better and understand the zoning more. Right now, it's all getting hit. You understand it all right now? I don't. I want to be able to dive into this and not make a decision based off of, well, this is what they showed us. I'd rather set the moratorium, let the three that are in the hopper, set a date, boom, they're there. And then let's look at this, the zoning, how we want to change things, or go look through the Schenectady laws and give us some time. Because an application can come in tomorrow.
The moratorium would only be for the cannabis use, correct, Stuart?
Would only be as to the dispensaries, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dispensaries.
So it wouldn't be for anything else. Okay.
All right. I just need to see which way we're going with the moratorium, which is something that came up. You're for a moratorium, we can figure out the number of months, it could be less, it could be more. Sorry, you're for it. Pat, your comment on moratorium?
Yeah, I
Thank you
was
for-
gonna, I'm in agreement with.
Okay, Omar, can you comment on moratorium, please?
For sure. I think that I'm good with a moratorium, but particularly because it's pretty limited in time.
Yeah.
It's not indefinite, and so I'm fine. Particularly, like, I want someone like Bob and for all of us to have a deep understanding, to feel really comfortable with all of this. So I understand Dana's concern of the chilling effect, but I think the limited time nature of this, can help with that.
Okay, more on this, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, and I agree that it, my perspective is that the two that are already approved and in the works and in front of,
Mhm.
like, and my understanding is up the river, the one down by the train is, like, in the process of getting a
Not
building
close,
permit and,
Yeah,
well, they have to get a building permit, is what I've been told.
He
so.
has. It's the nursery is in the process of getting the building
Well,
permit.
whatever, but the point is that they're both, like, in the process, and the one that's very close is also, like, for me, like, let's not stop those, is my
Right.
perspective.
right. So those three, to be clear, I'm just saying what you did. Those three, they move forward. Everybody else is gonna have to wait X number of months till we get more information, put some resolution, because this is all new and it's moving, as I just heard you say. And the purpose of moratorium is actually for boards to actually stop and pay attention to it. Everybody on the board is for having cannabis. That wasn't the issue, actually. That hasn't changed. What's changed is the lightning speed of people just submitting paperwork and starting processes. Many of them never even complete the process. They are just holding up the place. Basically, we've got a whole bunch of entrepreneurs putting placeholders, not only in our community, in other places, to be the first ones in. When we looked at it, to be fair, we thought it was a very limited space, and that's why we agreed that it was okay. That space is not so limited anymore. It actually is much bigger than we originally. I'm not sure the board would have agreed so readily had we thought that it was 200 feet from some front door on the same road. I mean, seriously, You might as well just put it right next to the property of a school with that definition. Because most of the schools in the suburbs have property, but their front door is way inside the property. I don't know if we would have all agreed so readily at that time. I actually think a moratorium is a healthy thing to do. The question is whether we want to do our usual 6 months. I think you could do 6 months, and then if you get to a point where you have a decision, you could stop the moratorium
Yes,
too,
that's-
right?
that's-
Like if
that's
we
provided in
conclude in
law.
3 months, we can say, we have our answers.
Yes.
Because I think the board is in favor of these establishments, but just in a more controlled way is
So what
where
about
some
the
of us,
two that are that are applying that need to come
they're
before
not
us?
applying, they're giving us notice. That's different, right?
Okay,
Right, so
what are
where we
the-
are with both of them in the process, is that because we knew that we were coming to you with this conversation tonight. We held off on what would traditionally be the next step in the process, which is inviting them to come speak before you in that 60-day window, and then you have the opportunity to write your letter to OCM. So based on, the outcome of this conversation, we will obviously have to, figure out how to let those folks know that, unfortunately, the board is moving in this direction, and, we might have to put a freeze on this for now.
For a few months
Mhm.
till we make a decision. I wouldn't use the word unfortunately, but this is what the board is deciding. For them, I guess, but I think some of those placeholders. So I have 4 votes. You're staying with a no on the moratorium? Okay, so it's 4-1. Now, what's your next step with that? With what we just discussed? What's happening?
Procedurally then, on the 20th of August, we would have a resolution to refer a zoning text amendment to the planning board with regard to a moratorium. And I think the planning board meeting is after the 20th.
That's correct.
So they would be able to consider that at the August planning board meeting, which would mean at the first meeting in September of this board, you could call for a public hearing on the moratorium. So you'd have the moratorium probably in effect by very early October, end of September.
Okay,
It's about-
right. So that sounds like the timing. Yeah, so that's when we're gonna be, we're not doing it tonight. We're
No.
doing it in October.
We're just getting a sense of the board tonight.
Right, well, that was the purpose.
So
of
aren't
coming
those
here.
2 other entities gonna go, oh, we need to come now before you pass this?
Yeah.
Can we do that? I mean, it's up to us, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think to Stuart's point, the board sort of determines what the cutoff is. So if the board were to say the cutoff is you have to have, X, Y, and Z paperwork in with the state of New York or with the planning board or with the zoning board or something like that. If the board is saying now is the time, I think we
Yeah.
can figure that out.
And then to these other 2, are these just conceptual to you people? Have they applied for their stuff? To the
So
state?
we had, and you can
Right.
figure it hop in, we had pre-app meetings, with one so far.
Right.
And that's the one that, to trustee White's point, is looking to erect a brand new building. So I imagine that is not gonna be a quick
No.
process for him. He has to go for site plan approval. It's
That's a
gonna be
big
sort of an
deal.
involved, process. The other is in an existing space, but we haven't had a pre-app meeting yet, so I have absolutely no idea what they intend to do there.
You haven't had any meetings with that?
Not yet.
No.
And also just to point out, Office of Cannabis Management is currently approving license applications that were filed in the end of 2022.
Yes.
Okay then.
What?
They are currently dealing with applications for licenses filed at the end of 2022.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it's a big rush and everybody's just putting a minimal little stake in the ground, meanwhile creating a lot of work because they don't want to wait 5 more years. All right, so I think the direction from majority board, not unanimous, majority board is to look at this and we're looking at October as the date. If you have any issues with these 2, just, let us know. I mean, if there's something we aren't looking at and these 2 entities might be very viable, like, let us, give a jingle, but otherwise I see no reason. Because I remember all the conversations we had and we always said, it's a narrow strip.
Right.
We'll probably have 2 or 3 max. And then the strip just got widened and widened by an agency that isn't even controlling the influx of what they're getting and managing it.
That's correct.
So,
All right.
okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Valerie. we do have an exciting agenda left if you want to stay, but
Look how excited Valerie is packing her thing.
as quickly as you can. She's
Yeah, they look
she's-
excited.
she's put in a long day. So as you all know, and this is unfortunately, the Wishney Park fountain has the pump has gone on it. And we did have some late breaking news on this, or well, we've sort of known this all along, but we've been talking to Bill was able to connect with the pump company. There was an issue with the pump that the company that sold us the fountain had. They don't work with that pump manufacturer anymore. They do have a workaround. They will retrofit it. We are past the warranty period, which is 4 years. Of course, we've had the pump for 5.5 years. They will not honor the warranty, but they have a way to retrofit the current pump, which we have an estimate for, which is $27,000. A new pump, this similar model that this company produces would be $47,000. But I want to ask Andy, and Bill is on Zoom, to sort of talk about the pump and the fact that Bill has 3 estimates, so he can go over those estimates, including the lowest one, which is the retrofit of the current pump. Bill.
Yes, so thank you. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, the workaround that they have from this company, because of the motor issues that they had in the pump that we had bought in 2019, is a retrofit. So we're not buying everything that we would need to buy if we were purchasing a new pump. So to purchase a new pump, which is called a Galaxy, would cost about $48,000. The retrofit is around $27,000 to give us a pump that is equivalent to what we had. So we do have those estimates that we can go forward with at this point.
Talk about the other estimates that you got for the alternatives.
There is another, if we don't want to go with this same manufacturer, I do have estimates for another pump. This is a pump that the local distributor has in stock. It would cost $30,000. It's a larger pump. They are giving it to us at a 50% discount. What they're telling me is that Pepsi company in purchase had bought this pump and then decided they did not want it. So they have it in stock at their facility. So they're looking to unload it. And that, like I said, would be a $30,000 price tag. Again, if we were buying that new, it would be around, $60,000. So we have a number of different options that we can do. If you've been up to Wishni Pond, up to the reservoir there, there's a lot of algae that we're looking to try to deal with as well, but it has a lot to do with the fountain not running. When the fountain did go down, we did put more aerators into the pond, and that's been kind of holding its own. It wasn't able to control the algae, but at least we're getting oxygen into the pond.
We also have an issue with an invasive like seaweed that is attracting the algae, that we've talked to a company that can cull the seaweed. So we have a couple of different options. Does require a significant fountain pump, and Andy, maybe you can talk too about some of the needs that we have that are both attractive and decorative, but really need to keep that pond from being overwhelmed with algae and stagnant. So
Thanks. I don't know if everybody realizes, but that used to be the drinking water for the village, 80 to 100 years ago. In my opinion, like, dealing with a retrofit, you're not going to have the warranty. Bill, did he say anything about the warranty with retrofitting? Is it the same as a new? You're muted.
Yeah, we would get the 4-year warranty on the retrofit. If we were just gonna buy a new motor, it's only a 60-day startup warranty.
Okay.
Pepsi fountain, does that come with a warranty?
I didn't hear the question.
What about the Pepsi fountain? What's the warranty on the Pepsi fountain?
I believe that's. I believe that was 5 years.
Okay.
And then the biggest question, right, is do we have the capacity, which I really think we do, for the extra 5 horsepower that you're talking about? I'm sure it'll need to change in the electrical box, but that's something we want to verify before you go any farther, as long as we have the capacity there.
Yeah, the electric is an issue, but we do have the capacity according to the electrician. We just don't know what the price of that would be.
The capacity to handle it.
Yeah.
It would have to
Correct.
be replaced. So what's the warranty on a new fountain?
The warranty on the retrofit would be 4
No, not-
years. The warranty on the new fountain that we would be getting at a 50% discount is 5 years.
And the original cost of that Pepsi fountain, what was it? You said 50% reduction?
$60,000.
How old is that fountain?
It's brand new. It's new. It's $66,000 if we were to buy it from some other distributor.
So they never installed it,
They
right?
never installed it?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, so they ordered it and then they canceled the order.
Right.
I mean, if you go in that direction, you're getting a new pump for not that much more than the retrofit. Right?
Right. It's a
The year
$3,000.
longer
Or the
guarantee.
year longer guarantee. It's just a matter of, is the electric up to it? The
And
electric.
that,
up
Well, you have-
then what the cost associated with upgrading the electrical service.
When did it first break down, this fountain?
So we put it in May. It was up and running. It went down. We thought it was an electrical issue, so we had the electricians troubleshoot that, and so it's been since mid-May.
I don't think that was my question. You installed it in 2019?
Yes,
Okay, when did it first break down? What year?
this year, 2025, May of 25.
That was the first time it broke down?
Yes,
So it has a 5-year warranty and it breaks down in 5 years, 5.5
Four-
years.
4-year warranty. We used it for
4-year and it breaks down in 5.
5.5
And,
seasons.
and you think that the right move is to buy from a vendor who charges you tens of thousands of dollars for a fountain? That's their business because somebody they decided to do business with turned out to produce something bad. Instead of them honoring the product and giving you a discount, they're giving you nothing.
That
And
is-
you want to still go with this vendor?
No, that's not actually what we want to do.
Okay.
So that is, that is the lowest priced option is to
Mhm.
retrofit. Their other option is actually higher if we were to buy a new fountain from them. We're
Mhm.
not, no one's suggesting that we do that. That's almost $48,000. The other option that we have is to be able to get a $60,000 fountain from a different vendor, a different manufacturer for $30,000, provided that we can make sure that we have the electrical capacity to run it without incurring even to significantly more cost.
Okay. It seemed, I may have lost my perspective on tens of thousands because we keep talking about millions. It just seems that when you buy things that are worth 30, 40, 50, 60,000 that are fountains, that they should last 10, 15, 20 years and not 5 years. I mean, this is not like I just like bought a used car from used car dealer. These things are supposed to last a long time. These warranties are useless, actually, and not to honor it. I'm assuming you guys do business with this vendor. I think is like, we're gonna be here again in 5 years, spending yet another $50,000 or $60,000 because we have like absolutely no leverage, it seems. The real question is not to discuss which product to buy. The real question is why we need to do it now. Because the reality is nobody's drinking that water. The water is, I walk in that like 3 times a week. So why not just empty the thing out and then find a pump somewhere in the US, even if you have to wait, and buy it at a better rate with a better warranty? It just seems like something broke and we're buying something for $35,000. Again, with a 4 or 5 year warranty. That's like nothing. What is a 4 or 5 on a fountain? And I don't even know what the labor is in putting all of this. We're not drinking from that water. We're not, it's a nice pond. But why not just empty the whole thing out? It's got invasive plants. I mean, why do we even need it right now?
So my question is, when it was up and running or previous to the year before this pond, the reservoir, I call it reservoir, was treated, correct? Didn't you have somebody?
Before the fountain? Is that what you're saying?
What was it, Don?
Steve Ho.
Steve.
So
So-
Steve
I keep
Ho,
thinking
Steve
Don
Ho
Ho,
used to
Don Ho.
treat the,
I don't know what you were talking about. Yeah.
Steve used to treat the water,
yes, he did.
right? Is anything being done for the water now?
So the Steve was licensed.
Right.
We do not have, Steve's no longer with us. You need to be licensed by the DEC. We don't have that. And also, there's DEC issues with treating the water. So we have to honor those regulations.
So how'd
at
we
this
get
point.
away, or we just did it?
Steve considered it drinking water.
Okay.
'Cause
So
it was a reservoir.
Right.
But, you know, after speaking with the DEC, they won't allow that. It has to be permitted. And we're in the process of getting someone at the plant certified. So in the meantime, Bill has reached out for other companies to try and treat it. During that process, he found a company that would come in and cut the seaweed out and drastically change it. And what the mayor said about draining it sounds like a great idea, but the turtles, the fish, all that,
yeah, there's.
we would have
A lot
a
of
fish
wildlife.
kill. You know, it would be
We
easier.
put those in every year, don't we?
No.
No.
No?
So, again, I think the issue with draining it is I do think you would have a huge public outcry given the amount of wildlife that people enjoy there. That said, is there other options to aerating this more sufficiently than the fountain? That would be, we don't, to the mayor's point, the fountain provides an aeration function that's essential, but it's also a decorative feature. Is there a less expensive?
So like when Bill ran into the situation, we took some aerators from our plant and we put that in there. It's, I don't know how much aeration you would need, but you would need aeration, a lot of aeration. The other thing too is I'm just as disappointed as you with the warranty because when we buy a pump at our filter plant, it lasts 50 years, right? So they make these parts, we can get parts, All Makes comes in and they rebuild it, or our filter plant operators rebuild it. All Makes, which is one of the leading rebuild companies, is like, I don't want to touch these. They're nothing but the companies don't stand behind them. He's like, you're stuck. If you want a fountain, they're high maintenance, but we understand you need it, the aesthetics, the aeration. So, Bill, how long did the old one last before that?
It was like 15 years.
Okay. So.
Yeah.
I don't know, and
I mean-
I see why the manufacturer's rep stopped using them because obviously there's a lot of issues. They don't even sell them anymore. The rep, right?
And and unfortunately, the industry standard for the warranty is 4 or 5 years. That's what it is. So no matter where you buy that pump, you're only going to get a 4 or 5 year warranty. I mean, we could go for a smaller pump. We would have to consult with that would be less expensive. But we'd have to consult with a company to say, we have a 2-acre pond there, basically. What's the minimum that we're going to need for aeration for that pond? That's what we really have to come up with if we want to spend, potentially less money.
And this is something that runs only 6 months.
Yeah, and that's when the water when it's the warmest needs it.
Right.
So.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously.
It's both ornamental, but it's also functional in that it controls the algae.
Yeah.
Correct.
And it's the only way to do that?
You could use
Apparently.
aeration, but there would be aeration bubbler systems all over the place with wires everywhere.
Whatever they're doing now, it's not really working well. You could actually see maybe a third, maybe more, maybe 50% of the pond is being covered. When you walk around, you could actually see it. This is not a good conversation. This is a crappy product sold by a crappy company that will be crappy again because they're not even warranting, they're not standing by their product. And I'm hearing that the industry standard is low. It's a really low bar. And so we're choosing between broccoli and spinach instead of thinking creatively about what we want to do with that pond. If there are turtles and all that, we may be better off spending our time figuring out where to put them, whether it's T-Town or other places or other than spending another $50,000 every 5 years on this plus labor. Because the manufacturers don't believe in their own product. Essentially.
You're saying empty it for good?
No,
Um,
I don't.
I'm saying we have to
Not
figure
figured
something else out and we're working in a rush. I mean, I'm sort of curious as to why Pepsi-Cola, a global company with beautiful grounds, isn't putting a fountain that we're about to buy.
Well, I mean.
You don't know why.
There could be any reason. Maybe they found a different one. Maybe
Yeah.
the CEO changed. It's Pepsi. It could be any reason. But that said, and maybe they decide they don't want to keep replacing fountains too. I have no idea. But I think that we have to look, I mean, we can still look at it. The only reason that it's become, it's an issue is because the algae, because of the
Yes.
heat, is becoming an issue. Now, we
Mhm.
are looking at
ugly
another,
looking.
Bill's been talking to a company that will dredge the algae producing plants that may be somewhat helpful for the season. And if we can do that, we can sort of table this and figure out what we can do before next season. But I do think that, the algae issue is something we have on top of. And Bill, I know you've been trying to get in touch with this company. Were you able to get any costs?
I got an email from them late this afternoon. They just had a couple questions, so I think I'll get the estimate tomorrow.
Okay, so what I'm going to recommend is we can see what that will do, because one of the issues is not just the algae, it's this invasive
It's everything.
tree, like seaweed, right, type thing. that's gonna-
It's called Eurasian milfoil.
Yes, it's Eurasian milfoil. I forgot. That was it.
I gotta remember that.
Yes, the Eurasian milfoil.
Okay, what do you guys want to do?
I'm not
I'm not thrilled with this whole thing and I'm not thrilled about the product we bought.
I'm
And
not.
it's my personal opinion about, I don't even know the company.
First of all, what's the turnaround on either one of these decisions?
They
Say,
have
we're
a-
gonna say, yeah, we want a pump. When would the pump
Yeah.
be here?
The Pepsi
look-
pump is available today.
Okay.
So
so
I'm
that
pretty
answers
sure
that.
Pepsi doesn't want us refer
So,
to it as the Pepsi pump, but okay.
We have a whole. How late in the season does that usually run? October?
Yeah, we go into October and then we take it out before ice comes in.
So we're talking another 2 months. So first of all, I'm not in favor of draining it. It's not even on the radar for me. I'm guessing instead of us making a knee-jerk reaction and spending a lot of money, it sounds like the warranties are the warranties, wherever you go. It's no different than when you buy a car. If they believed in their car, they would give you better warranty.
No, people don't buy those cars again. These
No.
fountains are few and far between. The minute cars start being defective, that's why they passed the lemon law,
Oh,
because you can't get away
right,
with it
well,
with other products.
we're
Go
get-
ahead, I get
We're
the idea.
getting in the weeds.
I
here,
get the
so,
idea.
I guess, standard wise, you're gonna get a 5-year warranty. I'm sure there's not that many pump companies around, first of all, to draw from. So, I mean, I'm in favor of probably bringing this company in. Let's try and clean it up the best we can.
Which company?
The company he's
yeah, one
accepting a
that
bid
deals
from.
with, specializes in Asian milfoil removal. Yeah, but Bill's working with them. They had some questions. We'll have a price probably later this week or early next week.
I'd love a new pump, but it doesn't sound like, everybody else wants a new pump, or you don't want a new pump. So,
I'm just angry at the way this whole thing's been handled. So,
Well-
and I'm angry that companies do that, and I don't want to go back to the same company that I think
they're not
is
even,
doing that.
they're
But
not
the
even in
Pepsi one is a
existence, are they?
60,000, that
different
is going,
supplier.
it's a different supplier.
Different supplier. Yeah, and the Pepsi one comes with a 5-year warranty,
That's what
It's the
Bill
next,
said.
it's another year, correct?
5-year, but for
Yes.
30,000,
Yeah, for another 3,000
30,000. And you gotta-
versus 28, yeah?
Versus rebuilding for, yeah, close
For
to 20.
28, yeah.
I would never rebuild a pump like that.
No, doesn't.
I mean, I
that's
think
crazy.
that we should look into the electric situation. I mean, I think it kind of makes sense.
We could
I
have that.
mean, I'll take Pepsi's
30,000.
cast offs.
And Dale thinks
Yeah.
that, did you see? Okay, she thought they might have sold the property where this fountain was gonna go.
Okay.
But
So-
we don't know that for sure.
I guess my last thing is
PepsiCo.
the, well, I had a last thing. The electric is another story. That's just an added cost, but you know, it's a shame not to have the fountain there. That's a huge, you think the community center's huge? That place is huge. I put it right up there with the community center, and all you see is what's up with the fountain. And I'm not saying that's why we should make our decision, but you know, we're here for the people, and you know, I'm in favor. I can go both ways. I can get, first of all, we need to take care of these weeds. Or what are the malfoils or whatever they are.
Yeah, and the invasive weeds.
We need to take care of that, but I still think we need to replace the fountain,
And you're gonna go, you're going towards the
the Pepsi fountain.
the the $30,000 5-year.
Pepsi fountain.
I'm sure they're happy about us mentioning.
That's where I stand.
Pat, any comments?
Yeah, so good. I'm fan of the fountain. I've received lots of feedback that the fountain needs to be fixed. There probably does need to be a long-term kind of solution, and I think working with the invasive weed person to come up with a longer-term plan to try and make sure it's gone forever is the right thing to do, right? But in the interim, there is unfortunately a short-term issue, and I'm not a fan of retrofitting some pump to some frame that it wasn't designed for from the start. I think that's just asking for trouble,
Yep.
right? Yeah, it's even rebuilt, like anything mechanical that's rebuilt or retrofitted, or you try and jury rig, it ends up there's something that's engineering wise is not right. So for me, I'm not a fan of the retrofit. I'm a believer that the reason that the more expensive pump that we're getting at a discount wasn't used is because I think it could have been for the they did get out of all of their Westchester properties. PepsiCo did get out of the Westchester properties, so I believe that. So I'm a fan, but bottom line, I'd like to see a long-term plan to get rid of the invasive weeds put together with whomever the expert is, right? Something that can be done potentially over the winter and the spring to try and limit that for next year. I'm a favor of buying the discounted pump from a different supplier, a different manufacturer. Let me be clear.
Than the one
It's a different
from-
manufacturer that makes the pump than the previous pump, right? That's got the 5-year warranty.
Are we using this supplier for other properties that we have? I'm looking at you, but Bill's on.
I don't
Bill?
use them at all.
It's called the Pond and Lake Connection. They're in Brookfield, Connecticut. We don't use them for anything else. I don't think Andy uses them at all either.
Yeah, because it's not potable water.
So
Okay.
what's the horsepower on the pump that's broken?
It's
20, Bill?
20 horsepower.
20 horse?
20
Yeah.
horse.
And the Pepsi is what?
25, I believe.
The
So
new, yeah,
it's minimal.
Yes, more amps.
Are you on this?
Yeah, it's not.
Dana?
746 watts per horsepower.
Okay, Omar?
I basically agree with everything that Pat said.
Okay, I agree with everybody too. I just, we're not using the vendor that did this. I think that you guys better in 3 years. Number one, if it breaks down, I don't think we should fix things ourselves because I think it does screw up the warranty. And number two, I think somebody better put a long-term plan because if this one only lasts 5 years, we cannot seriously sit here and put in $50,000-$60,000
Oh,
pumps.
the advantage of having a bigger pump, it won't work. It shouldn't work as hard. All right, because it's stronger. Maybe this one was, maybe it's just not sized correctly. And who knows? It could have 100 answers.
off the table, but okay.
I'll bring it up
I,
because because of the difference in horsepower. I think the bigger horsepower motor will have a less of a strain on it.
hey, but somebody better be looking at this because you can't do this every 5 years. Well, 5 years and one day, I should say, which is exactly when these things are gonna break down. Yeah, the pond actually, does have, I have a refrigerator, 10-year warranty, and 10.5 years it broke down. They planned it that way. It's very planned, so I just want us to understand that we're using taxpayer money here, and while pretty, we have to put a plan together. I think we're done with this one. Thank you. All right.
Thank you
And
very
I'm sure
much. Thank you,
we're paying
Bill.
For this, because we didn't budget for this. Where's this coming out of? We didn't budget for it, so what are we not doing to do this? Anything?
Is it on? We do have contingency funds,
Okay.
so we can draw down, from that. And I'll
Okay.
just leave my stuff.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so next up, it is time for our mid-year review. I have a presentation on our major projects and an update on everything. This does sort of take a time to go through, but I'm gonna go fast where I can because some of it about, but there's some key points for each project I just want to illuminate.
Can we take 2 minutes?
You can take 2 minutes, sure. You can take 3 or 4 minutes, so.
So from a timing point.
Karen, quick question on what can you see on the screen? Is it sharing because my screen looks a little strange from here, so I just want to see.
You see 2 slides at a time. You see this one and the next one. Do you have like the notes?
I can't hear you.
The notes side is up to, there's something
Got
wrong.
it. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Are we gonna get to this, to Paul, to the work plan? We on? Okay.
All right, so we're having a little change in our agenda schedule here. Tonight we have our village engineer and our superintendent of water, Paul Fraioli and Andy Teese, to give us an update on the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant. This is the biggest project we have going on, but it's happening up in Crotonville, and we don't often see it. But a lot of progress being made. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Andy and Paul to give us the latest on Indian Brook.
Thank you, Karen. This is going to be a very short presentation, but we did want to take the time to take you from the groundbreaking, which was a few months back, to where we are with construction today. So thanks for having us. We're going to talk a little bit at the end about where we stand with the budgets as a segue into Karen and Dale's presentation. But we did want to show you some of the status of some of the construction and how it's going out in the field. But before we do that, really for the benefit of our newest trustee and some of the public who might not be versed on what's happening out there in Crotonville right now, we did want to talk a little bit about what drove us to the village to complete this project. The original Indian Brook plant, go ahead, next slide, was constructed in the 30s, and we had an expansion in 86 where we added some filters and brought the capacity of the plant to a filter plant that can serve 4 million gallons per day to the residents in Osting. And then internally and with contractors, we performed those 6 additional upgrades to the plant to bring it up to where it is today, to today's standard. And I'm not going to read them all, but you can read them. And that is how we are functioning today in the existing plant, where we produce 4 to 5 million gallons a day. Next. One of the major projects that we undertook a few years back was the reservoir rehabilitation. This included a complete dropping of the reservoir and thank you. A complete dropping of the reservoir and reestablishment of the earthen dam riprap that faces the reservoir. And in the rear of that photo on the next slide is the reconstruction of our spillway to become a serpentine spillway to lead to the overflow surface area and make our capacity of our spillway up to today's DEC standards, thereby bringing us off of the dam safety alert list, which made the papers a few years back. If you remember that, there's a lot of high hazard dams in New York State. We were one of them, basically due to water view and its proximity to our spillway. We are no longer on that list. I'm actually proud to say we were the first ones to pull ourselves off that list because we were already thinking about doing the project before the DEC called us out on it. This was a tremendously successful project. While we did this was the required part of the project. While we did this, we also rebuilt the intake structure to facilitate stratified intake from the reservoir to improve our raw water quality. And we also put in the infrastructure to go to what Andy and I were pitching to the board at the time, a new facility. So we did create basically a blind line there with a flange to connect to a new plant. And that's where we are actually tying in this new plant to. So it was good forethought from the team there. And we're well underway. So if you go to the slide after this one, I'm going to turn it over to Andy because we're going to talk a little bit about how we treat water now versus the much more state-of-the-art treatment that is going to be found in the new facility. And then we're going to come back to me for some summary.
So I'll speak pretty fast. Obviously, we have 2 water sources, the New Croton Reservoir, and we have our own Indian Brook water. We try and use most of our own water at all times, except if there's any harmful algae blooms or there's not water spilling over. If there's water spilling over, we want to use every drop we possibly can. The treatment consists of pre-oxidation, coagulation, flocculation, settling, filtration, post-treatment, chemicals added prior to the clear well. So that's the old existing plant. And we're meeting all the water standards and we're exceeding the water standards for right now. We did an assessment with Hazen and Sora a while ago. We needed to look at the future of this plant, besides doing the New York City water demand management program, which we tried to find every leak in the village and town. And we had the toilet replacement program. Before we sized this plant, we found some major leaks. So that allowed us to not have to build an even larger plant. In this process, switch slides, sorry. I'm reading something you guys aren't looking at. So the old plant was designed for 4 MGD. The maximum, so we had to figure out our water demand for the next 25 years, which we did. Valerie was part of this too. So out 25 years is 6.8 MGD. The plant is designed for 7 MGD with the ability to expand. With all the development going on and what's being approved and what's in the pipeline, I feel really good about this. Because when everything falls into place, the length of time before this plant goes online will be more than ready. Next slide. So let's just make this fast. This is the old existing plant right now. And in the middle, you see where it says settling. Can you go to the next slide? One more. Okay, this is just showing the different processes. Okay, keep going, please. Oh, back. Thanks. Okay, this is the one I wanted. So instead of settling, we have what's known as after flocculation dissolved air flotation. So the existing plant takes a particle, makes it into a larger particle, and it settles before filtration. This plant has dissolved air flotation, which we entrain air, we lift the particle, we make the sludge go to the top of the water tank, and we take the supernate water off the bottom. That allowed us to make the tanks 13 times smaller because you don't need detention time. You could sit there and just do it mechanically. That's going to change our filter backwash rate instead of 50 hours up to 500 hours. Dramatically changes the water quality. And then obviously the final process is the UV disinfection for MIB if we have issues, and also anything with PFOAs that it can help dissolve. Next slide. Sealed process. Okay, back to you.
Past 10 states, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you could pass that.
Okay. Okay, so without going into too much more detail about the process, in short, we are going to put through almost twice as much water, a lot more efficiently in an area a lot smaller, because the size of the tankage, the main tanks where the dissolved air flotation takes place, are not nearly the size of the settling basins that we have in the existing plant. That's very fortunate for us, because if you look at this aerial view, it allowed us to make use of our existing parcel that the village already owns. So there was no land procurement, and there was no planning or zoning issues that we needed to hurdle to have a site for our plant. That's a large part of issues with plants, is how to site them. We already own the property, so that was a good thing. We actually went to the town planning board and spent quite a few months there detailing our objectives with them, and followed through as any developer would with all their procedures. It was a very thorough process. I think the residents there are very, very happy with what I think the end product's going to be, and I know the town planning board is very happy. So that's an aerial view just to get everybody's bearings. That's Indian Brook Reservoir to the right in the dark area. And I'm sorry, I don't have a pointer, but that white dot at the upper portion of the red outline is the air structure that is over our existing tankage. That used to be outdoor tankage. And everything to the left, that is the green area to the left of the red area, is area that was partially wooded, but we cleared it under the auspice of the DEC appropriately. And then we let our contract documents out to bid, and we got underway with our project. If you go to the next slide. You can, you can see the plan view of the plant. So that red area more or less is defined by the thicker lines you could see here. That's the plan view of the existing plant. The reason we wanted to show you this one was because this includes some of the green components. The stormwater measures that we took on this plant were pretty intricate because we created obviously a lot of impervious surface with the plant itself and some of the paved areas that needed to surround the plant for access. And there's two very large storm treatment units to the right and to the north of the plant, at the top of the plant there, if you will, on the plan view. So we met all our stormwater criteria there for the town and for the DEC permitting. The roof, which really is tough to see, but you can see the shaded areas on the roof is actually a green roof. So we're going to have vegetation on the top there, which is going to help us for an efficiency perspective, because it's going to take a lot less to air condition the building when you have that, but it's also going to serve as a stormwater treatment mechanism, which allowed us to decrease the amount of stormwater that we needed to put underground on the site, which means we did not have to excavate or go outside of our existing parcels. So this is one where we could say that the green roof not only served its purpose environmentally, but for constructability, it was almost a necessity. It was a necessity.
Did you say you did it? Did you say you did it or you're doing it?
That's the final process.
We're doing it.
Right.
Yeah.
It'll be great to see. I love green roofs, so it'll be great to see the effect. Is that the first one we'll be doing on any village property?
Yeah.
We have our build.
Yes.
Okay,
Um,
very
go-
exciting.
To go to the next slide. We wanted to just give you an overview to kind of reiterate what we said here. The main building you see there in the center is what the site plan will look like. And if you look to the right of that plan view, you could see how it relates to the existing plant. That's the only reason we really put that slide up. The next slide is the one I think is going to be the right segue for Karen and Dale. You can't read those numbers by design because they're so big. We don't want you to see them. I'm just kidding. If you sum up all of those 4 contracts that are depicted in that table, it comes out to about $87 million of awarded construction work. There was 4 prime contractors: general, electrical, plumbing, and HVAC. And those contracts in total, a little less than 90, it was about $87 million in contract award. There's already been change orders. We've discussed that in some detail to you in past meetings, but essentially between the delays associated with COVID and design, it worked out to be sort of a blessing because we had to redesign, add UV disinfection, incorporate some MIB treatment into the plant. That happened because of the delay. So we took advantage of that delay and brought everything up to today's standard, which were being worked on by the state health department while we were in design. So now we're in a really good place. We still went forth with bidding it and offset the power increase requirements and some of the equipment associated with the redesign in those early change orders. We've really vetted most of the contract documents and are not expecting any significant change orders that we already don't know about. And we are very comfortable that we're going to come in within the $105 million bond and budget we have for this project. Now, that 105 million is obviously more than the aforementioned 87 million, but that 105 incorporates soft cost and contingency, soft cost being engineering, inspection, construction management, et cetera. So if you go to the next slide, that's just a picture of where we're at today. It's a very busy site. There's a lot of subsurface work that took place, but now it's actually coming out of the ground. But this just gives you a level of what we're building here, because we did hear a lot along the way. Hey, you might be a little more efficient if you use this building specification. We build this building to last 50 years, 100 years. This is to the left of the photo, you see, I think that's number 6 rebar. I'm not sure, it varies, but that is very thick rebar, and it's basically like a fortress down there. This is all the tankage and the mechanical systems that are gonna be on the sub basement level and the first level of the plant. The next slide is actually a video. If you hit play, you see the wall starting to come out of the ground, but where you see that bulldozer now doing some rough grading, as the camera pans to the left, we already have, that's basically going to be the rear wall of the plant. We already have the surge tanks and the distribution tankage built subsurface in the basement in the back. And now you can see that. Thank you. That's the clear well on the left, which will be the finished water product before it goes out to distribution. You'll actually start to see it come out of the ground and reach the first floor level, which is where we stand, or where you would stand if you were pulling into the existing plant now. We also utilize a camera that's on the site all day. And if you want to go back, we started taking some pictures from that camera right after the ribbon cutting. If you go to the next slide. And if you hit play, you're going to see a time lapse. Unfortunately, a lot of the work that's happening subsurface is going to get blocked out by the excavation that takes place for the work. But you could see we worked right through last winter and into this summer. And this goes on. Sorry, there's no music to this, but
Definitely needs
it's a
music.
good thing. Yeah.
Should have taken the fireworks sounds from the
Yeah.
other night, put them right in there.
There's plenty of fireworks on the site right now, believe me.
There's the winter. This is very cool, actually. I like this.
Yeah.
I mean, it really shows progress. We should be doing this with all our projects. It really shows like things being done. He's raising the bar. What do you want from me? It's a little Apple phone.
Let me just say a
24/7.
couple of things we're looking at in this photo. It's from the roof of the existing plant. The large box type of thing there that you see on the front of the foreground of the photo is the generator. That was all, I'll compliment Andy on that. He sized that appropriately to run the new plant, even though we put it in when it was the old plant. So a lot of the things we did in the last 5 years were all with the new plant in mind. So if we did have a power outage, that generator and the new power that we designed to come into the facility are all designed to run the new plant. So we're going to be in a good place when we're all done. You see the rear wall coming up, and we still maintained a very nice green wooded buffer, because some of that is our property, with water view and the Crotonville neighborhood to the east and the north, if you will. And then even our neighbors behind us, the old GE property, also maintained a swatch of woods, and they're being very neighborly, the new owners, with this project as well. So it's going off so far without a hitch. A lot of the heavy stuff's going on. I think most of the potential issues we may have once the building starts to enclose itself is you're going to have all four prime contractors in full bore on the plant. That will require a lot of workers to be there. So we might have some park spillover and some mobilization spillover, but we're going to be very neighborly and do the best we can to build this plant with limited inconvenience and interruption to the surrounding residents. All told, we're still aggressively pushing for an April 2027 substantial completion. That was the contracted substantial completion. We haven't backed off that, even with the delays. We're still pushing very hard. If we do end up going late, we're still confident that we're going to do it within the existing budget. Thank you. Of $105 million.
This is great. And it doesn't do justice to the space surrounded by houses on two of the sides anyway. And it's really great that you're taking into account, to do all this work without interrupting all of that, the houses and what they need and noise and all that. It's been great. I've not received one complaint about this project from any resident yet. That's a miracle. That's like an A+ to you guys for the work that you're doing, because
We received a couple.
well, you may receive a couple. I've received 0 because, I mean, even if we get some, my expectation was to receive a number of them. So it just speaks volumes to how great the work is. The amount of money is very high, but I think necessary. And I'm glad Andy pointed out that with the growth We talk about housing, we don't get funding from the governor's office and the state to help us with a lot of this, even though when you put in housing, that's creating at least a 1% increase in our population almost annually. Once we really get moving is for a number of years, that's a huge growth. And I'm glad you guys were ahead of it, 5, 6, 7 years ago on putting this in. I will say that when I have visitors from out of New York, everybody thinks the Ossining water is the best around. So, I mean, the water is great. When you go to other places, you see the difference. Pat, you had a question? Comment? I saw you moving into the mic.
Kind of like, a great job, obviously. What happens to the old plant when you turn it off?
We've had very preliminary conversations with the manager's office. All of them probably too premature to even talk about it now.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
A water museum.
No, I honestly, from an education, if there's any way to turn this into education for the high school kids or middle school or STEM projects or anything like that.
I will tell you this past summer, we've hosted another Ossining high schooler I'm sorry, he was an Ossining high schooler. He's now an engineer in Manhattan College. He's working there this summer, and it's going to be great resume garnish, and he's really doing well.
That's great.
So this
Have
is
you done
probably
tours?
the 7th or 8th summer in a row that we've had interns at the plant.
You still doing tours inside for the school or?
We're kind of backing off the tours a little bit because of everything going on, but if we could fit it in here and there, we're doing what we can.
Yeah, I hope so, because I think the opportunity for engineering is, and not just the math, computers, the school has such a huge program. The tours I think are really cool. Great, good. Omar, questions? I don't think he's on actually. Maybe he is. There he
None
is.
for me. None for me. Thank you.
Okay, we're good. All righty. Thank you, gentlemen. If you can lower the price, that will be a big win.
Thank you
I'm
both.
Sure that's not gonna happen.
I like the audio visual effects. It's good touch.
He especially likes the time lapse, which we will now be doing on all our.
Yeah. Maybe. So I'm going to defer to the board. It's 10 o'clock. We probably, do have between Dale and I, it's a meaty presentation. We can defer this to another meeting. I defer to the board.
We spoke about it when we took a break. So look, there is a limit to brain cells' ability to capture information, right? And these meetings tend to be intense and jump from one thing to the other. Is there a natural break between the two presentation that we can do? So we do part of it tonight and part of it next week?
We
don't have
another meeting for the next 2 weeks. So
Excuse me, that's right.
So, each presentation can stand alone.
Okay.
We got it. It's just depending on, the context and how you want how you want this to play for the public. And
Okay, the other way is let's get started, or you guys want to do it? I don't want to go past 11 o'clock. So, but I want people to not feel. So, should we just get started and then see if there's a natural break?
I think we could do one.
I know, for sure. I'm
Okay,
trying to
Dale,
see if
you're
we
up.
can fit the whole thing in. Why don't we start and see how far we go?
okay,
I think you're sitting here, status of the project.
I think
Sitting here, what you have to say?
Pat wants to do your stuff.
so Dale, thank you for joining us tonight.
Are we doing Dale's or?
Doing the project one, Jamie.
Okay.
A decision's been made.
Folks, I am actually going to take leave. I have an early flight and I am not here.
Travel well.
Have a wonderful trip.
Bye.
All right. It's doing the double screen thing again. Oh, there you go. Good. Thank you, Jamie. All right. So, this is, our mid-year review. It's hard to believe it's mid-year 2025 already. But we do have a considerable amount of things going on. So this presentation is meant to take you through those projects. Next slide, please. So we have such a range of projects going on. Obviously, our DRI projects, we have a lot of non-DRI projects. I do want to talk about the grant sources that we get, which are significant, and the budget implications, as well as public-private partnership implications as well. Next slide, please. So just a brief refresh, the village was awarded the Downtown Revitalization Initiative by New York State. There's the governor. This was still during COVID in late 2021. You see everybody with their masks just getting out of COVID, and it was very exciting. It is now 2025, and we're actually getting started on some of these projects. There's a total of 7 projects. We'll talk about the village projects tonight, but I do want to highlight there were 2 projects that were not village projects that got DRI money, and that included the Olive Opera House renovation, which is also underway right now, as well as the Lewis Engel Town Park, their new stage, and that is getting ready to be underway as well. But for us, it really all starts at Main Street and the revitalization of Main Street. And
Next
I'm
page,
sorry,
Jamie.
I'm going faster than you are. Next page, yep. So the revitalization of Main Street and the surface parking lots that were once beautiful buildings that were destroyed during urban renewal with the promise of rebuilding that never came. We do now have an ability to redevelop them, but of course we have to address the parking issue, and the parking issue is being addressed with our multimodal transportation hub parking structure, which will be built on the Brandreth lot, and that's going to absorb the parking that is on the post office and Market Square lots, while also providing about 100 extra spots, and as well as a bike repair, bike shop, a e-bike facility. That's part of a way to blend parking, but with also opportunities for micromobility and an enhancement to the aqueduct too, because the bike shop will be nestled on the aqueduct side of the Brandreth parking lot and really create like a nice sitting area, an attractive amenity for the aqueduct and for Ossining at large. So we're excited about that. So we do anticipate right now, as you all know, we got the bids. There was a little bit of sticker shock, the bid coming in a bit higher than we expected, at a total of 21 million with contingency. And that includes the soft costs already embedded in the project. We received word yesterday from the state that they have, we have a preliminary approval to shift some monies around from the DRI projects, which I'll talk as they relate to the other projects, but we now have $4,743,000 in grant funding to put towards this. Wilder Balter Partners is also putting another $960,000 into this program in conjunction with their market rate mixed use project on Main Street to offset some of their parking needs. However, their parking for that building will be 100% allocated or built within that project. So this is really all for shoppers, employees, local employees, residents, and overnight parking for residents too, primarily. The new site, the same way the the surface parking lots are used now. We're also right across the street behind the multimodal site off of Broadway, 95 Broadway. We're renovating the Joseph G. Caputo Community Center. This is a really exciting project, and we had recently presented, our architects from DCAK had presented to the board. Right now, we're in the process of finalizing those drawings, and we're hoping that we'll go out to bid for this project, which will include a range of more efficient uses of space and programming, and really lighten up the space, open up the space a lot, and make it much more functional and flexible to accommodate the many things we do there, from youth bureau to pickleball to senior nutrition, and a range of other programs. So we anticipate, as I mentioned, that the drawing, I said the drawings were being done, finalized. We should go out to bid in September. And we're going to stage the construction. So without a firm timetable and understanding how that's going to work, because we do want to keep the center open during the construction, but we anticipate, this will probably run 18 months, give or take. That's what we're anticipating now. So starting sort of at December going through June of 2026, thereabouts. We'll have a firmer timetable once we get the bids out and have a schedule. The total cost of this project is budgeted at $5.5 million, including the soft costs, and grant funding is $2.5 million for that project. Now, in conjunction with all of these projects, which are really developed strategically to revitalize Main Street in that area. So we're building the parking garage, but the reason we're building the parking garage is we want to develop the surface parking lots. So we have a mixed-use development, which we're calling Spring on Main, that Bill Balter and his team, the group that was here earlier, will be developing. This is really this is on village property. We will be have a land use acquisition agreement, and we will be talking about public benefits and things associated with this project. And there will be a community engagement on this project to sort of inform the final design. But this really is a project that is solely taken over by the developer in terms of the construction costs, which we anticipate being about $60 million. And it is in a sense a public-private partnership that's born of the DRI. So getting this DRI seed money created an opportunity for a private developer to come in and take over the design of that site. And next slide, please. Right across the street, we have our beloved Market Square. And that was one thing that's come out loud and clear in many, many focus groups and community engagement sessions over the years, that public gathering space, that farmers market space needs to be preserved. It's very important to the community. So that will be a public plaza. There won't be any parking there anymore. We're going to be able to re-landscape it, add some green space, and create a utility for various events, the ones we do now, as well as events we could be doing going forward. This will relate to the new building across the street on Spring Street. And the idea is we can design this in a way that the retail that from Spring Street really complements an outdoor space. So you now can close that slight bit of street on Spring Street to do your farmers market, your events and things with businesses that complement and would benefit from that type of street closing and those type of events to really generate economic development and value for the residents in that building as well as throughout the community. We anticipate the timing for this probably, I think we're going to, around 2008, 2028, because really this is going to be the last project in the mix. And the reason for that is each project we're trying to minimize the impact on parking. Obviously, nothing's going to be done in these lots till the parking lot is finished, the parking structure. But also, we're probably going to realistically need Market Square for some staging for the development, and we want to make sure we're not taking up any room and not disturbing businesses that are working there, open currently. The estimated cost, this is a project where we had a little bit more money. We originally had $2 million, but we did shift some funds. We shifted $1 million of the funding from the DRI funding to offset the expense of the parking garage. And Wilder Balter Partners also committed an additional $500,000 in conjunction with their development. So it gives us $1.5 million, which we can do a good job of the landscaping on this, but we also hopefully will get other monies between now and when we finally execute this as well. Next slide, please. Station Plaza at the base of Main Street is also sort of, we're seeing new businesses there thriving. It is right next to the train station, across across from the river, and now going to be very close to the 30 Water Street development. Some of the monies we've gotten from the DRI were to do some enhanced streetscaping. Again, we had gotten a total of $857,000. We have reallocated $500,000 of that to the multimodal site. Knowing that we can still do a good job of streetscaping here. I've worked closely with our village engineer, Paul Frioli, to make sure that we can accommodate most of the intent of what was originally proposed. It will complement streetscaping that will be done by Wilder Balter on the 30 Water Street project. And again, we're hoping to supplement this job with some other funding, either through CHIPS or maybe some other grant funding that we can get. But we're excited to link the revitalization of Upper Main Street with Lower Main Street at Station Plaza. Next slide, please. So we also have a number of non-DRI projects underway. So you see quite a list here, but rather than read it, I'm just going to take you through them. So let's go to the next slide. The Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant, which you just heard all about, is fully underway. And I think you have enough detail on that, but I do want to note that we had a total of $15 million in grant money coming in for that project. $10 million was from Empire State Development and was tied to being a pro-housing community, but we also had $5 million in EFC money through a water infrastructure improvement grant, and $160,000 in a green roof grant. We did also allocate our ARPA funding, which we got during COVID. So that gives us another boost of over $2.5 million towards the Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant. So it helps. Every little bit helps, and we were happy to get that funding, considering that the expense of the job, which does come out of the water fund, however, and we'll talk about that in later in the presentation. Next slide, please. Another grant program, and this is a federal grant program that's administered through the county, and we're part of a county consortium that receives money through a community development block grant, which gives communities based on economic need and demographics funding to do public improvements in recreation and streetscaping, and that's a variety of public improvement projects. So we do Paul has been meeting with the county to talk about streetscaping and sidewalk, installing new sidewalks. We were thinking this would happen in the fall. We do want to be careful not to do it like the first week of school, and we also don't want to go into the winter. So we will update you on the timing, depending on when this project is bid and when the timing of it actually starts and what we can work out with the county. We're just going to try to have it done with as little impact, certainly on the opening of school in September, but we'll get back to you once we know what the details of that are. But that's a $549,000 job that we're getting, and then we'll be with grant funding of $200,000, the balance is paid by the village. Similarly, we're going out to bid, and the county manages these bids for a new inclusive playground at Nelson Park. And that's a $368,000 project that we also are getting $200,000 towards. And the timing of that is a little in flux. We're working with the county, but that potentially, that's not going to be anywhere near as disruptive as the new sidewalks. So we will keep you apprised of the timing on
I have a
those
question
projects.
on this one.
Sure.
One of these is the one across from Park School, right?
Yep.
So I've gotten complaints that the school is closing off during school hours. This is tax dollars being used by the full public for the use of the public, but the school has been closing it off for school use only. And I don't know if you could look at that before we spend money and redo
I
this.
believe that was already addressed. We did talk to the superintendent during the school year and made it clear that that could not be done. So I believe that based on my conversations with the school district, that they know that that is not something that they can do. And the principal of Park School, that was
You
discussed
might
with
want to,
them.
before we do this, I'm just suggesting that you have.
We will reiterate that.
We have new principals, we have new stuff. It's just, I don't think we could have it both way, like put in tax dollars and then have grandparents say they can't take their grandkids there during school hours because the school has policies that you can't have adults where children are because it's part of the school and they close. the school.
Yeah,
So
this,
you may want to have that
yeah, we've had
conversation
that, we
before
will
do it.
have a
Okay.
continued
That'll be
conversation, but we
helpful.
have had that
I mean, it's
conversation.
tricky. I'm
Well,
not
it's-
judging. I'm simply saying you might want to have that
It's
conversation.
it's really tricky because the school, I think that was, we had some, again, there's been a lot of turnover with school administration, but it is public property and the school is aware of that. And we will reiterate that, particularly with the new park. Next slide, please. So the Route 9 road diet, the narrowing of Route 9 has been talked about almost as long as I've lived in Ossining, which is over 30 years. And again, this is addressing an issue that was created through urban renewal when literally a mile stretch of Route 9 from Cedar Lane, where I live, it's getting late, and Cedar Park was really like narrowed, I mean widened rather. And this was supposed to be done, you know, all down through the rest of the river towns, and it wasn't. And Ossining really did had an impact. It bifurcated our village. It made businesses less viable on Route 9. And we did get funding through congressional funding that's now encumbered at the Department of Transportation. And we are working on, again, the plans are at the DOT. They're making some comments. We are supposed to have a meeting with the DOT within the next week or so. Things take time. They're going through review, but we're hoping to have those plans finalized in the very near future. So this job can be underway, bid and underway in 2026 and hopefully completed by 2027. This job not only will narrow Route 9 for that distance, it will create safer intersections at Croton Avenue and at Aqueduct and Denny Street, and it will also, in conjunction with this, we're talking about widening the parking on Old Route 9 in front of near Havel Street, so that we can address some of the issues that we're having on Havel Street. And I just want to point out the work that Paul has done on this, as well as the police department. We've had a lot of input on this, and this is an exciting project too. That will definitely assist in the revitalization of our downtown efforts, and really the synergistic play of all these projects really makes for a stunning transformation and a reversal of some of the negative consequences of development that maybe needed to be thought out a little bit better. And hopefully we'll be able to do that in a way that we stand the test of time and improve on what was done in the past in a significant way. Next slide, please. Of course, one of our biggest assets is our riverfront. And we do have a grant pending, a little over $100,000 for a local waterfront revitalization program, which is really a continuation or meant to complement and augment our comprehensive planning to address resilience, climate adaptation, and development in that riverfront area. And it will include a harbor management plan too. So that's something we're probably going to start working on this year and into next year. And we will continue to keep the board apprised of that and involved appropriately so that we can, I'm certain that that will involve significant community input and be a good way to start thinking about our waterfront, given the recent zoning changes we did to the Riverfront Development District and Station Plaza as well. So that all works together. Next slide, please. So we're doing a couple of roof projects. We are in the process of doing. Yeah, well, I want to talk about the bucket picture a minute. We're doing the roof. You may have noticed we're actually getting, finishing up at the community center. We will be doing some finishing work on the roof later when we install some HVAC equipment. But right now, when it was raining heavily over the last few weeks, while we were doing the roof, there were some areas of leakage that sort of indicated maybe we have some issues with the roof. We talked to the roofer, and we actually have the manufacturer of the roofing material, Polyglass, coming out tomorrow to ensure and inspect that, one, the materials have been installed correctly, and two, that if there's any material defect in the actual material. They have taken samples to do some testing on it. We don't have those results back. The representative will be here tomorrow. Paul, Andy, John Heitman, and Bill will be meeting with him on site to discuss this, and we'll keep the board approved because we are hoping that the materials are good and that the next time it rains, there are no leaks. So we will keep you apprised. But that job actually came in under budget, $558,000, of which we had a CREST grant from Assemblywoman Dana Levenberg of $125,000. Next slide, please. Similarly, we are going to be installing a new roof, a different contractor, but same materials, at the Birdsall-Fagan Police Court facility. This job will came in at $218,000. We have a $100,000 grant, some CRAS grant from Senator Pink Harcum, which will go towards this roof, and both roofs are being built to accommodate solar when we can facilitate solar program funding for those roofs. We obviously are not going to start this job until we know exactly what's going on with the community center. So while we were thinking we would be doing it pretty soon, we may be delaying it a bit, but we will keep you apprised. Next slide, please. Also at the police department, the front desk, also known as the communication room or comms room, is being renovated. And a CREST grant from Senator Harcum of $100,000 is paying for this as well. The total job's probably about $125,000, but we will be doing a lot of work in-house. This will involve, this work is probably going to take place in October. But it will involve the police having to move into the shared space between the court and the police station to operate their communications room, because obviously that needs to continue to operate 24/7. Last week, we met with the courts and court staff, the judges, we met with the police department, and we figured out a way to share the space and move some files that are not used very much by the courts into a beautiful new filing room in our climate-controlled file center at operations, at the operations center. One of the projects that Sue Donnelly has been working on in terms of our records retention. So we're happy to start on that, but I do want to really acknowledge for almost all these projects that we're doing, the roofing projects, everything else, and this one, there's a lot of work that John Heitman and his team do that we do in-house. Tremendous amount of work, a lot of oversight that John has over these jobs day to day, and he and his team do a remarkable job of keeping everything moving and going. So it's good to give him a little bit of a shout out there. Next slide, please. So we also got $50,000 in CREST funding from Senator Pete Corkum, and I'll talk a little bit about CREST funding more broadly in later in the presentation. But this funding is going to buy a washer and dryer for a specific washer and dryer for decontamination to be installed at fire headquarters on State Street. And John and his team will be also building a decontamination suite. So this will allow our firefighters to come in from a fire, able to take off their gear, put it in the washer, go through, change, go through a shower, and then come out clean on the other side without ever having to recontaminate or touch things that have been contaminated by firematic operations. So it's one of our I think one of the most important health and safety interventions and that we're doing here, and we're happy to be able to have this done. That should get started sometime this fall. The total cost of the project, and this is for just the washer and dryer, is $57,282. And again, most of that is paid with through the CREST grant. All of these grants, but drawdown grant.
Are all the project timing, is that they're all consistent, like when it rolls out or when it starts?
So the project timing for this will be like, these are relatively quick jobs, so that like they're going to take a
Throughout the deck, you have project timing, project timing. Is that always when it's rolled out or when it starts? When you say project timing, from page to page?
Well,
to page?
what I've tried to do for the longer projects is put a range.
Okay.
And for the shorter projects, it's,
Completion.
yeah, so for the shorter period projects, if we start that in October, it's gonna, then they're not gonna take that long.
Understand the consistency.
Yeah, so it's a little bit different, but these projects typically, are only gonna take, a month or two at most. Next slide, please. So the Youth Bureau is seeing hundreds of kids a year. We're having them involved in so many different programs. One of the things is a lot of the programs are offsite. Some of the events, some of the advocacy things that they've done going to Albany require transportation. And Pete Harcum again was granted us $100,000 to purchase electric hybrid vans. And I heard that they were going to be here this month, or August rather. So total cost for the vans was $112,710. And the Harcum grant will cover that $100,000 of that. So pretty soon we will have our Youth Bureau vans here.
Remind me who's driving these vans?
That would be staff only typically from the Youth Bureau.
Okay, and are there going to be logos and stuff all over this?
Yeah, we can put logos the way we have put on other cars and things. So, yeah. Yeah, or both. Yeah. Yep. We can do that.
Okay, great.
All right. So just quickly, I just want to talk about these. We get a lot of grants, and that wasn't always the case historically. And as we all know, it takes time to write the grants and get the grants, but really that's the easy part. Implementing the grants and managing the grants is a little bit more challenging. Ensuring that we have the match monies and we're considering that in our budget is important too. That said, this has been a tremendous source of revenue to give us the ability to do projects that we probably wouldn't be able to do otherwise and do them faster. And all of the grants do, though, they're all drawdown grants, meaning we have to spend the money before we can get the money and certify that we've done the job and met all the grant requirements. So that means that we do have to have the cash flow in our budget to cover them. And it is the record keeping, everything involved in grants management. We're getting better and better at it. And I also want to say that as we're doing this, Sophia in the rec department, Karen Dougherty and Christina in DPW, Dale and Dale staff, as well as Maddie, are really doing a tremendous job of managing these grants, and the police department too. So we have a good system, and they provide tremendous benefit. So when we look, next slide, please. When we look at the DRI grants, the DRI grants are allowing us to do, over $28 million worth, of projects, but we're also getting just straight grant funding over $8 million to offset that. So essentially 30% of our project cost is covered by grants. And then we have a little bit more money that we're getting through public-private partnership funds when we have developers involved doing projects who are then putting money towards these projects too, because obviously there is a benefit for them and a benefit for the village to do so. Not only that, with the DRI, the whole idea was to not only get grants, do these projects, but was to really start economic development and fuel it. So because of the DRI, one of the reasons we're able to facilitate a $60 million investment in a mixed-use apartment complex at on the post office lot. So there is a value in the short term. There's a value, a direct value of offsetting our expenses today, but also really because I think particularly with the DRI, because they're planned to be so strategically aligned, because they all build on each other and they catalyze a lot of different, a lot of activity in the downtown, that there's the longer term economic benefits too. So I think that we're a really good example of effective use of revitalization money. The last bullet is that's how much Balter will be investing in his building. So again, that's another investment in the downtown. That it's possible that that might have been. I don't know that we could have accomplished that investment in that downtown area to develop that site if we didn't have the money to be able to do the parking garage. That's always been the problem. We can't offset the parking, we can't develop downtown. So the DRI for I think generally speaking for all the communities it's in, but I think for our community in particular, we had we didn't just have projects, we had a plan. And that plan has come together very nicely. And it also has helped us, that plan, the road diet, all these things are really working together to do things that we've been talking about a very long time in this village in one way or another, but always had an impediment that was due to cost of getting it done. So, but having that, having to be able to do those projects with 30% of the funding being covered by grants is significant.
What's the 960,000 direct private funding for the multimodal?
I'm sorry.
What's the
Oh,
960,000?
I'm sorry. Yeah, so in order for him to be in compliance with his parking, the parking required for the building he's presenting in his proposal, he had designated $60,000 per parking spaces for 16 parking spaces to be invested in the multimodal site.
Okay.
Okay.
I would just say that the word investment here is used in many different ways on this slide. I'm not going to get into it now, but he's not doing a $60 million investment because the return on the investment is his money,
Yes.
that he will make more money than he's putting in. That's called an investment, but it's not like an investment the way we would make if we were fixing the community center. That doesn't make it a bad thing.
Right, but
It's a great thing. I mean, we should have 10 more like investing like that. That's not, I don't have an issue. The usage of the words, I think, just need to be a little bit more precise because it's apples and oranges in the use of the word investment. And the direct private funding is real. That really is money that is being put. That's like real dollars going in. One could also say that on the multimodal should be a column after that that says like revenue or whatever to show the importance that this is something where money will have to be collected. That's not an option to pay off those amounts. So
Yeah.
the big picture is grants are good. Never did a lot of grants. Grants do have some issues with them. They require work, but that's still good, the payout. But just a little bit more of an explanation, because I could, look, the multimodal will start being, why are we paying? It shouldn't be, whatever. We've had this conversation. I just think it needs to be a little bit more precise in the
Sure.
verbiage. This is all great stuff, and I think the point that a number of years ago, under different policy makers, they were very anti-grants because they do require work and all that. We've been pro-grants, and here is an example of why that's good. And there's a lot going on that we could never pay for with tax dollars. I mean, that's just not, there's no leverage points if all you do is use tax dollars. You have to have the grants to help leverage every dollar that you're using, and that's what you're showing here.
Correct.
So
And
I think it's great. I just think we just need to, the word investment needs to just be a little bit better. What's interesting here is you got the DRI projects. Anyway, I'll let you finish. I know Pat's also taking notes. I have a
So-
big picture question, but let's keep.
So the other sort of funding stream where we've been getting a lot of money that we can use really flexibly. And Jamie, if you could go to the next slide, please. So these are CREST grants, and this is Community Resiliency, Economic Sustainability, and Technology Program through the state. But basically, they used to be SAM grants, and now they become CREST grants.
That's because you learned what SAM means and they have to change it.
So, but these grants are typically they're allocations that our state representatives get to bring back money to their communities. I think in the past it was also called pork, but or member items. But basically, this is money that comes back that we've been very we benefited from this significantly, as you can see. We've gotten this looks like there's a typo here. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a typo. I apologize, but we've gotten a significant amount of money. I apologize for that. Yeah, we'll correct that, but we've gotten a significant amount of money from our CREST grants. But again, these projects are all things we had to do. Like we had to fix the roofs. We had to, or mostly had to do. The police department definitely needed a new comms room and the safety equipment. I think being able to help our youth get to more, have more advantages by being able to travel more is great. So getting this money in, I mean, we're paying for a large portion of what things that would have come out of our capital budget. A lot of times when we get a CREST grant, we're literally looking at our capital budget to say, what can we use it for? So we're not just inventing things to spend money on. We're really using it as effectively and efficiently as possible to offset our capital budget, which allows us to spend money on other things or, be better prepared and maintain a healthy fund balance and debt to expense ratio. So the CREST grants have been incredibly beneficial, and we do have two more pending. We have one, the CDBG streetscaping grant along Spring Street. We have at the corner of Lafayette, we want to incorporate some swales that would help with drainage and facilitate sort of a mini rain garden as we did on James Street and James and State Street. So we have that pending, and we also have more recently a public space enhancement grant, which we have to decide on by September what we want to do. And I'll share some ideas, and I talked to the mayor. She'll share some ideas too of what we can use that money towards. But again, this money has come in handy, and the CREST grants are a little bit easier to manage. They don't once you're given this, you do have to go through an application process, but you're granted the money almost in advance, and everything else is sort of a protocol for that. So
Amy, next one.
the yeah, I gotta yeah,
It's the total that we received. The parks.
the one for the parks.
It was 100.
It's 100.
Yeah, 100. So next slide, please. All right, so we also get grants through the consolidated funding application, which comes out every year, which is a range of opportunities from different agencies throughout the state. And again, we've gotten money in the past. The money that we got for 200 Main Street remediation was a CFA grant. Also, the local waterfront revitalization plant was a CFA grant. And then there's also water infrastructure grants. And that's where we got the Indian Brook water treatment grants from. Those come in a variety of forms, mostly from the EFC, New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation. But in this case, we did get there's infrastructure grant now available through Empire State Development, which is tied towards making sure that infrastructure supports housing needs. It's important to note that Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant is not paid, the construction costs for that are coming out of the water fund. That's paid by Village and Town of Ossining water rate payers. So grant funding to offset Indian Brook Water Treatment Plant, as mentioned before, a little over 14%. And getting that grant money means that we did not have to raise the water rates as much as we would have otherwise to pay for that. Again, coupled with the ARPA funds really brings us over, over 16% that we were able to offset that expense to the water rate payers. And CFA grants have been, again, similar to other funding streams, just an effective way for us to match our needs with an array of grants that come out every year, so that we can, really complete capital projects, but also make sure that we're saving money in the process. Next slide, please. The other sort of principal grant funding stream is federally funded grants. And again, the road diet is really from a congressionally directed funding grant, which is similar to a member item from our federal representatives. That grant originated through Mondaire Jones' office when he was congressman for District 17. And then the CDBG grants, as I went over before, also are federally funded projects. It will be interesting. These monies are encumbered right now. We do have CDBG approval for projects that are pending for 26 and 27 for additional Spring Street walkability, sidewalk repair, streetscaping along Ellis Place and streetscaping along William Street. But to be honest, we don't know if that money is going to materialize or not. So we don't know what's going to happen with federal
Talking
grants.
about these pending federal grants.
Yes.
Okay.
So, we have been approved, but I think there's a long way to go before we know. And usually the CDBG grants take a long time. They're behind years, and it's a little bit of a process on a good day with.
You may want to just, after that colon, say either question mark, whether it's being frozen, whatever, because, every piece of paper of this deck is a form of communication on its own. Every page that you're presenting tells a story. And sometimes decks don't travel together, pages travel. Somehow they get out there. So I would just make that note that the federal grant, as of the writing of this deck, is questionable whether we'll be able to get them or not, because it just looks like it's sort of a done deal, but it's not. I mean, you're stating it verbally, I would just add it to the
Right.
deck.
And I think that, again, we had a meeting with the county, Maddie and I went to last month, and, we're going forward as if the money's there. There's no guarantee
not
that if this money's there, and no one can really answer that
So I
question.
want to ask you on this. So Spring Street, downtown, Ellis, Midtown, I guess not where it is. William Street is where is William Street? Downtown.
Yeah, so it's William Street.
Is there any of streetscaping for like 133, which I know is not a village road, because those sidewalks and a lot of the area in our main sort of thoroughfare, not looking so great these days. I don't know if it's just about looks, but the sidewalks, those are all county roads, right?
State roads, Paul, maybe you can speak to
State
that.
and
how-
county, like, is there
Yeah.
any opportunity like for upper 133 to do anything? Sidewalks, et cetera, is
The
what.
DOT.
Yeah, 133 past Pleasantville Road is under the control of the DOT. So they would be doing something like that, but there are no sidewalks. There are not many
Below that,
sidewalks
though.
past
Between
both of the
that,
school. So
By the library,
right.
you know, like, yeah.
One thing that will be taking place, and I just spoke to the developer about it a couple days ago. Part of the McQuestron development, part of their site plan approval included ADA accessibility improvement, new sidewalks, and new decorative lighting, and corresponding pavement from Sherman Place down to Butler, which is really the most compromised sections of sidewalks
100%.
in that area.
Benches also, no? I don't know, Butler. I
Um,
thought it was just,
Butler is that's right next to his parcel, right? Is that Prospect, sorry. Prospect to Sherman. He's
I
gonna,
thought benches too, no?
no, I don't think we have benches in there.
Okay.
There are some little alcove benches in front of his development. But that's, yes, correct, but that's not part of
That's
the,
not
that's
part
part
of
of his.
what we're talking about. Oh,
parcel.
well, that's a big chunk. That is probably one of the most, you know,
And some of the
I don't want to use
sidewalks,
negative words, but
um,
that would be a big improvement.
like Con Ed redid all the sidewalks for us when they did the posts, the utility pole relocations. And Con Ed is also gonna come in and repave that Ferris Croton
Thank you for
interface.
saying that. I was going to talk to you after the meeting because it's supposed to be curb to curb. et
Yeah, they
cetera.
are. And
Thank you.
for the last couple of years, they've been doing that to
That's
a T,
great.
really getting a lot of
Just
benefit.
saved me a whole email I was going to send to you. That's terrific. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for staying. The other element, you know, where again, we don't necessarily get direct funds, but there are benefits, are the public-private partnerships. So we talked about that a little bit with the DRI projects and the Spring on Main development, but we also have are you on the next? Yeah,
You're on
stay
different
next slide,
page.
Jamie. Next slide. Yeah.
There we go.
We also have, you know, our 30 Water Street development, which, you know, obviously is a public-private partnership. We now have 34 State Street, you know, as a public-private partnership, providing affordable housing, but also some real community development benefits. And then, next slide, please.
I think you want to update that. We don't own that anymore, do we? Do we still own it?
I think we still own it in that it is still a public-private partnership. It will,
Okay.
you know, the partnership, it's a 3-year program, so next year it will be expiring, but it's, yeah, yeah, so 30 Water Street?
Yeah, the first sentence says this village owned.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry.
Much
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, that's just, the former village owned. It was the former village, former, the ex-village. Yes, it's an X. Yeah, I'm sorry. And then Project Mover is another public-private partnership that, you know, it was an innovation grant, if you will. And while it was mostly done by consultants and we did a lot of staff time, in-kind staff time, a lot. It really has been a sort of remarkable program, and it is now expanded to the other communities that are involved: Tarrytown, Dobbs Ferry, Croton, and the town of Ossining and Sleepy Hollow. But it is being utilized, and it has really been well used for that last mile to the train station, as well as we hear from local businesses anecdotally that people are using the bikes, whether it's open door, the Riscos, like a few people have, a few businesses have said, like, our employees are using these bikes. It's really great. And that's exactly what the program was supposed to do. And it's not something I think we ever would have done on our own. So it was a benefit, and it's also, gives us another dimension on the parking structure. And it is also now the bike ownership program and getting people to be able to get bikes affordably. That's going to be a real help to people. And, there's a lot of benefits to that. So we are benefiting. The one thing about grants, you would think like, okay, somebody gave us money, so check that box, and no, we're not going to get it the next time. The reality is, and this is particularly true in with private donors and with government grants, is when you're doing good work and those grants are being managed well and they're demonstrating success, it sort of attracts other interest and funding. So whether it's from the private sector, just in terms of more development in your area, or more grants because people see that you're doing something and you're like on the radar. There is this ripple effect and collective benefit of just being able to elevate what we're doing in a way that it's getting recognized at the local, county, state, and national level, which is certainly good for our community. And that concludes my presentation. Next slide, please.
Yep, what happened? Oh, there we go.
Okay.
No, it's okay. All right. Do we have any macro questions or comments? I'm sorry that we're gonna have to hold off on the budget. I mean, you could see that people are beginning to be tired. The moon put
I didn't mean,
wouldn't
I
put me
didn't
to
mean
sleep at
to
all.
sleep just now.
Wouldn't put me to sleep. I think it's amazingly interesting, but okay. Do we want to hold off? Do we want to do by email? Do we want to ask it now? I know it's anyway.
There's a ton going on.
Yeah.
I think it's fantastic. I do, from back when we did the comp plan 5-8 years ago, whatever it was, it's just great to see some of it start to actually be executed and come to fruition, right? And so it's good.
I think it's great.
And
Yeah. I think it's a lot of work. So kudos to everybody involved. We've said this before. I think seeing dates, when we first saw the dates, they were pretty far off. Now the dates are like tomorrow, this fall, 6 months from now. So I think that's all great. I think we can refine some of the commentary. I think 9A has to be explained, like safety, economic development, and the rest is like secondary. What happened with urban development does not bode well for state government, because they basically ran out of money and left villages hanging. But it was a long time ago. There are people living here now who vote who don't even know what urban development is. So I think we really have to speak to the future, which is it's good for safety, which I think is number one.
Yep.
For people who live here, they understand how people run for their life across that highway. The lights don't synchronize correctly, blah, blah, blah. But it also make the place look better. And it is not, its purpose, as some people on social media like to say, is not to create more congestion. It's the other way around. It's to help with economic development. Because like in Tarrytown, many of the stores that are on Route 9 can only function because there's parking. They can't survive if there isn't a few parking spaces in front of theirs. And that will also, I think, alleviate, would help, I think, some of the businesses down the whole corridor and connect 133 from up and down as you go across. I think just a little refinement, but I think seeing the dates that it's all coming to fruition is just fantastic. It's a lot of projects. I didn't count. I used to count, but it's a lot of projects. So very appreciative. I don't know which projects we weren't able to complete or do. It looks like almost everything that we set out to is actually being worked on, which is sort of surprising, to be honest with you. Dana, do you have anything to add? Do you have any questions? The budgets, I think we'll ask more when Dale goes up of where we are and where we're expected to be.
No questions at this
Okay.
time.
All right.
But I have to say, it is exciting to drive around town and see construction and see
Everywhere.
things beginning and see things happening. And, it's cool. I
Yep.
think.
No, I think so too. I don't know, is Omar still on? I can't see because the presentation is up.
You can take
Yes,
the presentation down.
I'm still here.
Good, we just
So
weren't able to see you because something else was on the screen.
all
Welcome
good.
back.
All
No, not
good.
welcome
So
back, but welcome.
thank you, Karen. Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Karen, for the presentation. I'd say, a lot of my sentiment echo what folks have said. The biggest, this is in some ways a question, in some ways a suggestion. One of the things that always makes presentations like this helpful in the slides, and you have done this verbally as well, but is kind of telling the story, giving the context, what's the comparison. Because one of the things that I try to do is to make sense when I'm telling people, hey, not just here's what we're doing, but here's where we're ahead, here's where we're behind, here's how we compare to what's going on in other places. So is Ossining developing more, doing more than other places? I don't know. I honestly don't know the answer to that question. But my sense is just kind of being around that, yes, that we are doing more than your average community. And I think that's a good thing. And for all the reasons that Dana and others have named. But I think that helping us be able to be surrogates and like strong communicators for telling the story of where we are compared to what we've planned to do and where we're ultimately going, I think would be helpful. I'm still a huge advocate of whenever it is that a lot of these projects kind of come to bear, having some sort of recognition of like, okay, we've arrived at this milestone at whatever it is, where we can kind of go through all of these projects and really give them their due. But really appreciate all of the detail and really excited to see the work happening.
Great, thank you. Agreed. And I think we had this sort of last time this presentation was done too. You're either solving a problem, so that's like a story. Here's a problem we're solving. You are doing something innovative that improves something. It's not necessarily a problem. The bikes, it wasn't like a problem that we didn't have bikes, but it's innovative and it allows to improve X, Y, and Z, which it is actually doing. And so it's both an innovative pilot that we were involved in, brings communities. It's regional, which usually the municipality, and the comparison that Omar is speaking about is also great. Look, I don't know, New Rochelle and White Plains are doing tons of stuff. Maybe they're doing more. Who knows? I don't know.
Cities.
Yeah, but that's why you would do it. You would say we are doing as much as major cities that have corporations. Like, Tarrytown is a great example, except I'm not sure how far Tarrytown would have gone without Regeneron, without one of the fastest growing pharmaceuticals.
And Edge on Hudson is a massive development.
Right, they're going to see a 41% increase in their population. But when you look at the amount of affordable that they put in versus market, not exactly what was said when it was all done. And yet we're doing a mixture. We spend a number of years, so we're helping to solve a problem, and we're doing it at a village of a level with help from other agencies, which means that our staff and our electeds have had to learn to work with agencies outside of our own municipality. Not all municipalities choose to do that. So again, there's a problem solved. The story, and I think Omar is talking about that as well, and it's something that I talk about, which is every page tells a story. It may not necessarily be the same story, and that's okay. And if we have not done something correctly or would do it otherwise, I don't think there's any shame in saying, had we to do it again, we would do it differently, because I think that is highly mature for people to say. There are other ways of doing things, and that if we were to do it again, and I'm willing to take any flack for that, because I think that's a sign of like people are very secure in their choices. So I think this is great. Every time I look at this, I get dizzy. It's a lot of projects. because the reality that people should know is that 80% of what staff does here isn't this. 80% is keeping lights on, sanitation, picking up garbage, fixing potholes. Police department is with safety and security. Fire department does, like, I don't know if it's 80, but it's a large part is running a village. And then there's this. And that to me is what's amazing, is that then there's this, and this is a lot. So that should also be part of the understanding that the public has. But the business economic development piece is very interesting in this. The waterfront, all of that stuff is great. Thank you. We'll do the budgets because I think there are specific questions about dollars and cents. And I'm sorry we were here all night when maybe you didn't need to be. So apologies in advance for that, but it is late. Anything else? Are we good to adjourn? We are not meeting in the next 2 weeks, correct? So people should know that. I should remember. We're back, yeah. Just because of big people's vacations, we don't have quorums and stuff. Jamie, just remind me to put that in the mayor's message. I think we're good. Thank you. I think the whole staff, amazing amount of work in our little village, not so little. And we will continue this. I need somebody to say, let's adjourn. So anybody? Second? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and it is 11:06. Have a good evening.